Right. All right, welcome to candidate school. How are we feeling? Good? Thumbs up in the chat. Great. Well, I'm really excited to see you guys here. A little bit about me. I'm Victoria Hickton. I'll be your facilitator throughout candidate school today. I was a state officer back in 2019, and now I work on Louisiana FFA state staff as the state officer coordinator. So in my role, I work with current state officer teams throughout their year of service. I go through teamwork, development, leadership skills with them. I help them host conferences throughout their year, help them write speeches, go on chapter visits. That's my role I do as the state officer coordinator. Unfortunately, my time in the state office will be ending after state convention this year, so I won't be able to be your state officer coordinator, but our Elizabeth Richwine, she will be your state officer coordinator, and she'll be joining on the Zoom call a little bit later today, so you'll get to meet her then. We also have another special guest joining us today. We have Sarah Toll. She is our nominating committee coordinator. So she handles all of our nominating committees regarding national officer candidates, state office, and area office. So she'll also be on later today to be able to take you through the nominating committee process and what that's going to look like. Let's go ahead and get started with today's procedures. Stay muted when you're not speaking to make sure everybody on the Zoom call can hear the information that's being presented at all times and that there's no background noise happening. If you have a question, don't be afraid to unmute yourself and say, hey, Ms. Vic, I have a question, or you can do a hand raised chat emoji. If I don't see that, you can, of course, unmute yourself and say you have a question. If you lose internet connection, don't worry. Just reestablish, hop back on the Zoom, we'll meet you back in and make sure you don't want to miss anything. And if you have any major issues, you can go ahead and text me or call me at this phone number and we'll try to get you worked out to come back on the Zoom call. And I also believe this phone number is on the email I sent y'all, so you can access that there too. So for today, I, as your facilitator, is going to do my best to explain all of the information and content I present to you today. Try my best to answer all of the questions you may have and stay positive and engaging throughout this process. As a candidate, I hope you guys will listen actively, take good notes, think of questions to ask. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. What a question you may have might be another question someone else is waiting to ask too. So go ahead and ask them and also stay positive and engaging as well. So for today's agenda, we're going to review over the responsibilities of a state officer and what their year is going to look like. We're going to go over their state officer calendar of events. We're going to go over some state officer policies, the state officer capstone program. Then we're going to take a quick 10-minute break. After that, we're going to go right into the nominating committee selection process and its purpose. We're going to review over the interview rounds, scheduling, explain the competencies that nominating committee looks for in their candidates as they go through the non-com process, how that's scored, and address any other questions about the selection process and expectations you might have. After we go through that, we're going to take another quick 5-minute break. We're going to let all the state officers join on the Zoom call later today, and then they'll be able to go into our Q&A portion where you'll be able to ask the current state officer team any questions you might have about their year of service and get a perspective from them. If we don't have any questions so far, we'll go right into introductions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go first. So how we're going to do introductions is we're going to say our name, chapter, and a fun fact about ourselves. But one of the cool things about it is we're going to do this popcorn style. So after you get called on, you have to go in the chat, like go on the Zoom call, find another candidate, and say it's their turn to introduce themselves. And we're going to keep going like that until everybody gets introduced. Now, let's say you already introduced yourself and you get called on again. No problem. Just say, well, I already introduced myself, but let's go ahead and throw over to somebody else. If there's no questions with that, I'll go ahead and get us started. So I'm Victoria Hickton. I am currently at LSU, and my fun fact is that I am obsessed with CC's coffee. Love it. Could drink it all day, every day. Sometimes I drink it too much. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Cade.
Hi, my name's Cade Gordon. I'm from Florine, and a fun fact about me is that I'm a big history buff. Next, we'll go with Emily Bullock.
Sorry about that. Hey, I'm Emily Bullock. A fun fact about me, I really enjoy music and I used to play French horn and piano. I'm gonna go with Ellie.
Hey y'all, I'm Ellie Timms. I go to Mangum High School, and a fun fact about me is that I team rope and I love all animals. I'm gonna go with, is it Cameron?
Hey y'all, my name is Cameron Sibley and I'm from the Walker FFA chapter, and a fun fact about me is I really love the 4th of July. I'm gonna go with Parker.
One second, I'm having technical difficulties. My name is Parker Sanye. I go to Winfield, and one fun fact about me is I'm a big fan of cats. I'm gonna pick Michaela.
Hi, my name is Michaela. I go to Midland High, and a fun fact about me is I am a huge animal lover, and I'm gonna go with Chloe Cates.
Hi, my name's Chloe Cates. I'm from Acadiana High FFA, and a fun fact about me, I have a cow that I showed named Princess. I'm gonna go with Camille.
Hey y'all, my name's Camille Saunier. I'm from the Lagstein FFA chapter. And a fun fact about me is I've been dancing for 13 years. And I'm gonna pick Delasia.
They're doing announcements right now. Can y'all hear me? They're doing announcements.
Yeah, we can always, Camille, why don't you pick somebody else and we can come back to Delasia?
Emma Moran.
Hi, my name is Emma Moran and I'm from the Franklinton FFA chapter. And a fun fact about me is that I have played volleyball all 4 years of high school. And I'm gonna pick Shelby Lagman.
Hey y'all, I'm Shelby. I'm from the Pearl River High FFA chapter, and a fun fact about me is that I take pictures of absolutely everything. And I'm gonna pass it to Elena.
Hi, I'm Elena Lyons. I'm currently a senior at Central Lafourche High School. And one fun fact about me is cows are my absolute favorite animal. Over to Alyssa.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Van Blaricum, and a fun fact about me is I have a fear of sauce. I'm gonna pass it over to Riley Shuff.
Hi, my name is Riley Shuff. I'm from the Elton High FFA chapter. And hold on, I'm trying to get my camera on. And a fun fact about me is that I'm a big LSU Tigers fan.
Cool, Tiger.
I'm gonna pass it to Kale.
Hi, my name's Kale Doeys. I'm using Riley's camera because mine's not working. And I'm from the Elton High FA chapter. And a fun fact about me, I was born on Veterans Day. I'm gonna pass it to Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Ordwin. I'm from the Elton FFA chapter, and fun fact about me is I love going to my grandfather's farm and picking his vegetables and fruits. And I picked Delasia.
Is it working now? Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
They were doing announcements. I'm so sorry. My name is Delasia Morrow. I'm from Natchitoches Central High School. And a fun fact about me is that I love fuzzy socks. I gotta pick somebody. I pick, did Katie go already?
Who is that?
Her last name starts with an A. Or Dawn.
She already went. Let's go ahead and throw it over to Jillian. Jillian.
Hi, I'm Jillian Lance. I'm from Jennings High School, and I was born on Labor Day. I'm gonna throw it over to, did Brandon Lebo already go?
Let's see. I think, okay, there we go.
Alexander Wally.
Wait, do it again. You were muted.
All right. Hi, I'm Alexander Wally, and a fun fact about me is I really love robotics. I'm going to pass it over to my other chapter member, Haley Moore.
Hi, I'm Haley Morey. We're from Slidell High FFA, and a fun fact about me is I raise and breed rabbits. Who hasn't gone yet, Vic?
Is anyone on the Zoom call not got to introduce themselves yet? Right, that might be everybody. So, nice getting to meet all of you guys. I'm really excited for candidate school today. So let's just go in and dive right into our state officer roles and responsibilities. So one thing about youth leadership in Louisiana FFA is that we thrive off of the 3-pillar model. These 3 pillars are student leadership, advocacy, and personal growth. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the student leadership role. You know, FFA is based on being a student-led organization, meaning our students and FFA members make many of the decisions of our progression as an organization. Being a state officer means you are elected to be a servant leader of our association, which comes with many responsibilities and duties. One of those duties being on our executive committee board. This board is composed of the current state officer team, 4 area advisors, LATA president and executive director and secretary. The executive committee board meets twice a year, once in the fall and again in the spring, to discuss important projects and or issues of the association. Another job being a student leader is meeting with many people that make up and support our agricultural industry. Throughout the year, you'll get to meet with many industry leaders, educators, and government officials. In these conversations, you'll usually be speaking about what is the FFA, your FFA experience, and how a certain person or target audience has connection and a place in our organization. Also, you get to empower members throughout your year. Being a student-led organization, it is also your responsibility to meet with, encourage, and inspire other student leaders found in our state. Leaders found whether on the area or local level are always looking for new ways to improve programs, involvement, and their life pathways. Many of the times, you as a state officer are going to be able to empower these members at statewide events, chapter events, or even through your social media accounts. Going into our second pillar, we go into advocacy. Just as our FFA members are advocates for the agricultural industry, education, and the FFA, those responsibilities continue once you become a state officer. For the agricultural industry, you advocate for the farmer, rancher, agriculturalists, agribusinesses, farming practices, our food system, technology that advance agriculture, policies that contribute to the progression and benefits of agriculture. For agricultural education, you advocate for the teachers, students, agricultural programs, credentials, resources, materials, supervised agricultural experiences that give those students the work-based experiences they need before they even graduate high school, and the expansion of agricultural knowledge to every person that in some way, shape, or form has benefited from agriculture. For the FFA, you advocate for the member, the advisor, conferences that teaches members skills, competitions that test and enhance the knowledge and skills of our members, as well as advocating for all of those that make up and support our organization. As an advocate, you hold the power to influence a member, business professional, and even government official. Throughout your state officer year, we constantly teach you that knowledge and skills needed to be able to communicate different messages to different types of people. And our third pillar, personal growth. Again, I'm a very strong advocate for personal growth in state office. It's one of my favorite parts. Not only do we measure the type of skills you gain during this year of service, but we also measure how much you take away from the year. And again, in this year, you're going to get the opportunity to travel both around the state and outside of the state. Within the state, you get to travel to chapter visits, business tours, events like our area officer training, our state leadership delegate conference. Outside the state, we take you to Washington, D.C. for your state officer summit. We take you to Indiana for national convention. Lots of traveling happening. And during this travel, you receive a lot of experience within communication and networking skills. So before these events, you receive a lot of information about the group emails that your state officer coordinator is going to send to you. Sometimes you'll be emailing ag teachers before visits. This is what we call our pre-visit communication emails, just to make sure that you're confirmed you're going, everything's set up, and that you have the right materials you need to present to that chapter's members, as well as any questions you may have to clarify anything else you might have. We also teach you how to read request forms coming into you, engage with different programs we're looking for from your specific visits. Same thing with tours and business industries that you're going to go to. We send you a planner of what to expect from the visit and how to advocate for the FFA, ag, and ag education in that specific industry. There's also great networking opportunities. You'll get to meet members today, next year, again, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. You meet business professionals today or next year that might want to offer you job opportunities in the future. Great communication and networking benefits becoming a state officer. You know, I find a large lesson this year of state officer is going to teach you is time management. You have a list of required events that you're going to be going through, as well as optional events you can attend throughout the year and assignments you'll need to complete. If you're not careful, it can pile up quickly, but we do our best to give you all of the information up front so that you know what to expect when to expect it. So, you know, as you were filling out your application, you might have come across the state officer manual. Towards the end of that manual, it gives you all the required events for the 2023-2024 state officer team and their dates. So you can kind of put that on your calendar and expect when you need to be somewhere during your year of service. Also, when you get elected, we give you a time tree calendar, which already has those required events on it, as well as assignments that's going to be due throughout the year. So right when you get elected this summer, you can see throughout your year of service when's going to be due when, how busy your year is going to look, and when to expect to need to complete certain things by. Professionalism. You know, you really feel and understand what it means to be in the public eye. Even when you don't wear the blue jacket, people are still going to view you as a state officer. So it's always important to stay positive and a good representation of Louisiana FFA and what a premier FFA member should be. You're representing FFA members who are 12 to 18 years old. So we also make sure that what you're showing people is also going to be age appropriate. And lastly, showing up and completing assignments. Same as you would for a school or any job you have in the future, state office is the same thing. Show up, do your work, complete your assignments, but you also have a really great time doing it too. So it's all worth it. Do I have any questions so far regarding the 3 pillars? All right. So what does some of this responsibility kind of look like? You'll get plenty of experience facilitating workshops. Facilitating workshops really does prepare you in the ways to be able to make materials, content, and presentations, as well as how to gauge a room when they listen to your presentation, how to actively ask questions, and how to speak with the room rather than just to the room. You also get to learn some pretty cool activities to keep people engaged during your lessons and how you create your presentations. You get to write and present speeches throughout the year, enhance your public speaking skills to the point where standing in front of a room of people to talk comes naturally to you. I remember I used to be one of those people who would be like terrified to talk in front of like a room of like 10 people. But after your year of state office, that you do it so much that speaking to people really does come natural, and it really does ease your nerves after a while if public speaking is something that kind of terrifies you still. Now, One aspect I really love about state office is that it really does enhance all of your skill sets. What you struggle at is what you're going to become good at later, as long as you continue to practice it and try to get better at it. However, there's always that catch. In order to improve yourself, you have to be willing to always learn and work hard towards your goals that you've set yourself throughout this year. And we go a lot into that goal setting throughout base camp, which is one of the first activities you get upon election. So we get to dive into more in that and like what you want to get out of state office. Sometimes you get to get access to facilitate retreats for chapters. We'll prepare you for all of your visits like those, of course. Follow due dates, as I said before, be expected to complete your assignments by their due dates as you would following due dates for school or work. We don't really give that many extensions for due dates because we give you the due dates so far in advance in your year of service, but of course things happen, and if you do need that extension, please have that good communication with your state officer coordinator and they'll be working with you to be able to help you with that. We're very understanding when it comes to things like that. And that is all I have for this slide. Okay. Throughout your year of service, of course, we expect you to carry on your commitment to Louisiana FFA. Whether that be 1 month in, 5 months, or 11 months in, you always need to remember the commitment you made to yourself and to all of the members of this association to which you serve. Some of the most successful state officers I've seen is when they carry out their levels of commitment through these factors. One of the large ones is being a lifelong learner. There's always something we don't know, and every day is an opportunity for us to learn something new. How state office works is that you're not going to learn everything within one training or within the first couple months of office. Throughout all 12 months, you are constantly expanding your knowledge of FFA, agriculture education, and the different types of programs and what they offer. You learn how students are benefited from what the organization provides, current events in agriculture. All of that learning happens year-round. At the beginning of the year, we teach you most of the important stuff and main aspects of state office, whether that be about Louisiana FFA, our foundation, important relationships we have with other organizations and departments. However, your year of service, you learn more smaller yet still important aspects through that experience you do. You are a positive agent of change. What you do is going to continue even when your year of service is over. So state officers today are building those relationships with businesses and sponsorships and events through their Blue Jackets. And they are contributing to the success of our state, which is going to roll over into your state officer year, which you again will get to become a state officer, build those relationships with all these different people, which will then again roll over into the state officer team after yours. It's a great way to create ideas and goals for Louisiana FFA and how you can start implementing them. So state officers today are implementing lots of their goals and activities today that they hope the next state officer team will be able to continue throughout their year of service, and so on and so forth. We care a lot about the standard you set for yourself. One thing about your state officer coordinator is Elizabeth. She's never going to let you fall short of what your capabilities are going to be, and she's going to be here throughout your service to work with you for that. Both as a team and individually. One thing I really like is how, as a team, you're meant to work together, and your teammates, they're the first people you hug when you get elected, and the last ones you hug whenever you retire. There is no reward for being, the best state officer. But there is an reward when it comes to always being kind and being there for others and contributing for your teammates. After you take off that blue jacket for the final time, no one's going to remember what your position is, but they will remember how you treated them and how you made them feel. And I think that's a super important lesson to learn. You don't compete against your teammates. Your teammates are there for you. You compete against your own self to help yourself get better throughout your year of service, and you're there to support your teammates, as your teammates are always going to be there to root for you along the way too. And that's the best part about teammates that I love about state office, is that you always have those 9 individuals who are going to be with you throughout your year of service, rooting you along, and you get to root them along too. Hygiene. Always take care of yourself. Being in the public eye, it's always important to show up to events with your hair fixed, clothes not wrinkled, make sure they're clean, make sure you're always smelling good. You're never missing any parts of your official dress or other casual official dresses you may be using throughout the year. You're always looking like that premier FFA member we try to give off. And because at the end of the day, you represent each of our members, just like you want as a member to be represented properly by your current state officers, you as a state officer need to properly represent your members in return once you get elected. And lastly, I always like to follow IPK, initiative, positivity, and kindness. State officers have the best experience when they follow this rule. They always take the initiative for chapter visits and tours, to reaching out to members, to reach out for goals for themselves and the association. They always keep a positive mindset. When things don't go as planned, they look at the positives of the situation. When they have to wake up early, they look at the great things they get to do that day, and they always set the positivities in others. And kindness. This goes again what I said earlier, people will always remember how you made them feel, so always be kind to others as well as yourself. So that is all of our responsibilities and roles of what a state officer kind of looks like. Are there any questions so far? All right, seeing none, we'll go over into our state officer calendar of events. We're going to see all of the required events throughout the year, the days they're going to be happening, and a description of the roles and responsibilities you will have regarding each event. All right. So one of the first things you do as you get elected is attend base camp. Base camp is where you learn all of the basic leadership, communication, facilitation skills throughout your year of service. You get to reflect on goals for the year, establish your team dynamics with your new teammates, learn communication hacks, practice your blog and social media content creation. As you know, as a state officer, you get your own social media accounts for Louisiana FFA. So we get to dive in a little bit how you can advance that and make it your own. We learn how to overcome conflicts and make resolutions that might happen throughout the year. We practice how to become an effective advocate, and you develop lots of writing and facilitation skills. So this base camp is going to be happening June 11th through 16th of this year. It happens the week right after state convention. As you can see, the state officers are having like a blast right here. Look at that. They're having a blast. They loved it. I think it was one of their favorite events, if I remember. Next, after that, our next mandatory event is going to be leadership camp. So as you can see, Area 4 camp is at the end of June, followed by Areas 1 and 2, and then lastly, Area 3. The date's right there. A lot of leadership camp is going to be memorizing and learning your workshop facilitation, opening ceremonies, and activities you'll be putting on. And you get to engage with lots of members throughout the different areas. I think it's really cool to be able to go into a state officer position and get to actually go to every single area and see how other areas are different than your area would be. That was one of my favorite experiences. And I think a lot of people, you know, they kind of get that culture shock of the different areas, which I think is like really interesting to see. After that, towards the middle of July, we go to Washington, D.C. for our annual State Officer Summit. So at the State Officer Summit, National FFA trains you guys for an advocacy training. They take you to develop clear and consistent messages related to agriculture and the FFA. And they take you to go on legislative visits with your actual representatives up in Washington, D.C. Really cool experience. Also, you will be flying on a plane for this, so hopefully none of y'all are scared to fly on planes. So vlogs are kind of our ongoing thing we have for state office, and they start in August. Vlogs is where you get your opportunity to film a month's worth of content of what you'll be doing, like chapter visits, business and industry tours, if you have a conference going on that day. These are kind of the vlog guidelines I give the current state officer team. I tell them to film plenty of the events going on throughout the month that they're vlogging for. Film at least 10 minutes worth of content horizontally, not vertically, horizontally. And also I try to tell them to do a mixture of them talking, filming what's going around, and interviewing different people they're with. So as you can see, I have 4 of our vlogs right here. We have August with Colton. We have Flying Through February with Allie, the Ultimate Jenga Game with Grace, and Conference Madness with Annie. You guys will get to, you're gonna get your assigned month after you get elected. And If you guys are curious what more goes into state office, I definitely recommend watching these vlogs because these are actual state officers going through what they actually do throughout a month. So it's a really cool insight to see what they do and what you might be doing. You can find these on the Louisiana FFA YouTube account and they're all there. You can just watch them through. Another ongoing thing we have is our chapter visits. So I try to get each state officer to go on at least 10 chapter visits a year. And we talk a little bit more about that during base camp. You get to develop a chapter visit workshop to be used between yourself, the team for the year. We also, whatever chapter visit workshops you all create, we also give to the area officers to be able to use for their year of service too whenever they go on chapter visits. You get to give workshops and presentations to various chapter audiences, and you get to engage with a lot of cool members, practice that professionalism and advocacy that we teach you at the beginning of the year. And as you can see in these photos, your chapter visits are going to be a wider way of what you might be doing. So, you might be giving a speech or a presentation in an auditorium, you might be posting on different activities. Some chapters, they would prefer you to just give a presentation on a PowerPoint to their classes. Some have more hands-on activities where they want you to get more engaged with their audiences. Or some, they just want you to attend various fairs they have going on at their school and you just get to be present and interact with their members that way. And based on like what you'll be doing for each chapter visit, that comes back to that form that we're going to teach you to read over and that pre-visit communication you get to do with those ag teachers regarding what they want you to do for that visit. Another cool visits we do are our business and industry tours. You get to travel the state, getting to know the various different industries going on in Louisiana. Meet with us business professionals, tour their facilities, and advocate for the content of FFA and ag towards that industry specifically. So we get to teach you about whatever industry you're going to. We teach you how FFA is connected to that industry, why we need to be connected, and how we can get more involved to them. So as you can see in these pictures, we have the North Louisiana Ag Expo happening up here. We went to go tour Emergent Method. The CEO right here, he's actually one of our past state officers who got to start up that business. So we go tour that business every often. You guys can see what that kind of looks like. Right here, some of our state officers went to the Forestry Association conference. And right here, some of our other state officers got to go to the Saints Superdome and do some footage, commercial footage for the gator that we raffle off. Really cool experiences. And of course, like this back picture, you can see they went to Farm Bureau, the Farm Bureau convention, which you guys will get to go to too. That happens in June. Our next mandatory event is in August, and that is our area officer training. So the dates for this is going to be August 4th through 6th of this upcoming year. And at area officer training, this is the area officer's version of what you learn in base camp. So every year I ask the state officers, I'm like, okay, what are some things you learned so far this summer that you think is really important for the area officers to know within their year of service? They answer those questions, and that's where we write and conduct some activities and workshops for them to learn about during this conference. And you also get to engage and get to know the super cool area officers for the year. Next coming up is our executive committees. So we do two, as I had said before. The first one's going to be happening in the fall, which will take place September 16th of 2023. And the spring one will take place March 8th of 2024. And again, in these committees, you just discuss the important issues regarding Louisiana FFA. Some of those issues include the delicate issues that are presented at state convention. You as a state officer team and executive committee get to talk about and vote on those issues after they're passed or not passed at state convention. So I think that's really cool. That same day, we do Christmas pictures. And then you might be asking, Victoria, why are we doing Christmas pictures in September? Because we like Christmas cards and we think they're super cool and we're gonna get you a nice Christmas card. So that's why we take them so early. But we try to dress all up super cute. Like you can see here, they have like little headbands and they have Santa hats. I didn't think, no, in the back corner, you can see they're wearing Santa hats. Their Christmas card came out really cute this year. So you guys will get a Christmas card. So we're gonna take those the same day as the fall executive committee meeting. So that way y'all are all still together and y'all don't have to make an extra trip just for Christmas pictures. Really fun time. After that, we go into October where we're going to Indiana for National FFA Convention. The dates are October 29th to November 5th of this year. So usually what happens is during State Officer Summit, our president and secretary get taken aside to learn how to become a leadership delegate for national conventions delegate process. And the rest of our vice presidents, and I think our treasurer this year too, we have 7 voting delegates in Louisiana FFA. So after our president, secretary, leadership delegates, we have our 4 vice presidents and our treasurer get to be voting delegates for the national delegate process at convention. Other than that, you get to attend all of the sessions. You get to explore their huge expo. You get to engage with the different members of Louisiana FFA that go to national convention and take lots of pictures. We love pictures. Please take pictures. We give y'all a photo circle so you can upload pictures. I also use Nikki's really cute slides, so more pictures the better. After that, in December, we're going to state LDEs. So I don't have a specific date for state LDEs this year, but it should be expected like mid-December for when this is going to happen. You get to celebrate member achievements, engage with the different members that go to state LDEs, encourage them, talk about like what's going on with them, how they felt like their speeches went, really just have that professionalism and engagement with them. Present awards, pop banners. This is where we teach you how to do that infamous state officer pop. You probably see a lot at state convention, and also take lots of pictures. We love pictures. Members love taking pictures with y'all. Take pictures. We love it. After that, we go right into checkpoint 2. So I try to put state LDEs and checkpoint 2 back to back. So that way y'all are all together. We can just make one trip for both state LDEs, checkpoint 2. We're not traveling, weeks apart from each other. Checkpoint 2 is basically your second base camp. So what you did at the beginning of the year, this is where we check on you again halfway throughout the year, throughout our team dynamics, develop speech and writing skills. This is where we start planning state convention and SLDC. And we also have a Christmas party. So we like to do Secret Santa, and we also have a national FFA facilitator join us for checkpoint 2 to be able to teach all these skills too. So that's going to be someone from national FFA coming down. Usually sometimes we get like past national officers, or we just get current national facilitators who come. After this, we do blue jacket presentations. I'm not exactly sure when these will be. Sometimes we have them in the spring, sometimes we have them in the fall, so that kind of varies. But you get to deliver new blue jackets to members who won it through the blue jacket program. And it's really kind of cool to see how you get to kind of be that first experience in the members' FFA journey by providing them that jacket. I think it's kind of one they won't forget. And it's really cool how you get to be a part of that experience with them. In February is when we go to Twyla Studios. So Twyla is a Farm Bureau TV show called This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. And you guys get to host an entire episode called our FFA Takeover. And this one is going to be filmed during National FFA Week. So what happens is we're going to start y'all in the fall semester of the year, actually going on to chapters, to facilities, whatever our theme for this segment is going to be for next year. You get to go there, film content. We try to interview one person from each of the chapter facilities you go to, film at least 1 hour of content and B-roll so that we can have that to edit it for the footage. And you guys actually get to practice editing that content that you film, plus creating those narrations and scripts so you can send over to Twyla. So I also think it's like a really cool thing. You get to add to your resume, like, hey, I got to put on a whole segment for a TV show and have that broadcasted to a bunch of places in Louisiana and some places internationally. I think that's a really cool experience for you to have under your belt. And of course, you get to go to Twyla and actually film it here. After that, we go into SLDC. SLDC is our State Leadership Delegate Conference. So just like I was saying before for National Convention, we have a majority of our state officers as voting delegates, this and 2 of them as leadership delegates. Here at SLDC is where you are teaching our area officers to be leadership delegates for our state convention delegate process. So you get to teach some leadership skills, how to delegate issues at state conventions, how to write and present workshops and team activities at state convention throughout their sessions, different types of stuff, really fun. And this is going to be taking place March 8th through 10th of 2024. And usually some of these dates that I include, it also includes the prep day for when state officers need to go there to the event for this event. Video day weekend. This is where we start getting our content and B-roll to use for state convention. So if you remember at state convention, how you have all the videos playing on the screen at the state officers, this is where we film it. And this is where we do like our runouts, parent advisor videos, military, call to convention, theme videos. We film that all here. And you guys have a very large part in that. And it's gonna be happening during March 15th and 16th, 2024. Going towards the end of the year, we come across state CDEs, which actually we have like next week of this year. So I don't have a specific date for this either. You'll get that date as the year goes on. So, but it will be in April of next year, just like how it's April of this year. You get to, again, celebrate member achievements, engage with the different members, present awards, pop banners, and again, take lots of pictures. We do our annual Capitol Day. This usually happens towards the end of April or early May. This year, we have it on May 4th of this year. So if you're going, can't wait to see you there. At Capitol Day, you get to advocate for FFA, agriculture education, and the ag industry at the state capitol. You get to meet with lots of different legislators, be able to speak with them, and some of you guys will get to actually put on presentations during their legislative sessions. And they also reward you with some super cool stuff while you're there. So it really is a really cool experience. And then one of the last events is state convention. We have our prep day starts May 29th of 2024, and the last day of convention is going to be June 6th of 2024. State convention it's a big convention, lots of responsibilities, but I think we also have a lot of fun throughout the way. So you could just set up, there's lots of practicing on stage before the members even come into Alexandria. You practice your sessions, your greetings, your luncheons, your activities. You get to actually chair a session with your session buddy. You get to give a retiring address that's 8 to 10 minutes long, conduct opening ceremonies, conduct reflections, and get to celebrate lots of member accomplishments and achievements throughout the way. You know, state convention, that's not about state officers. State officers get to host it and you get to give an RA, but everything you do, like those RAs, those sessions you chair, that's all about the members and celebrating what they did throughout the year and celebrating Louisiana FFA. So I think that's really cool how you have this really unique and cool part in celebrating Louisiana FFA and all the accomplishments we do throughout the way. And lastly, to finish off your year of service, we do a post-convention retreat. So this is going to happen the day after your state convention ends. So for this one, it's going to be June 7th of 2024. And this is where we just get to debrief your state officer year, explore different ways how we can transfer and redirect all of the things you learned throughout this year into other aspects of your life. You know, if you're going to college, if you're still in college, if you're looking for jobs to get, we kind of get to talk about how we can redirect all that stuff we learned to different things. We get to talk about some networking hacks that maybe you didn't learn of yet, or some new networking hacks that come up. We talk about the benefit you're going to receive as a new FFA alumni, how to continue living your life with purpose after state office, and also how to keep your legacy alive. That's a really big one. All right, that is all I have during the state officer caliber events. Now I'm going to go into our capstone program. So to ensure each of our state officer program gains personal growth, which I mean, I love personal growth. It's one of my favorite parts about being a state officer, as well as your premier leadership and career success, we implement the state officer capstone program. And in this program, it consists of 3 parts. We have checkpoints, the booklet, and habitudes. So checkpoints. Checkpoints are the training programs that you as a state officer routine from a national FFA facilitator, kind of what we touched on before about base camp and checkpoint 2. The national FFA facilitator comes down to Louisiana twice a year, once after the week of state convention, and again halfway throughout the year, and they focus on teaching you how to be a team player, those conversation skills, public speaking, and how to write different workshops and speeches, just like we said before. The booklet, my personal favorite, is a self-reflecting guide that makes you think about topics that correlate with your progression in the year. So in the beginning of weeks, you focus a lot on goals, etiquette, how to make connections. Halfway throughout the year, you're focusing more on vulnerability, public speaking, role models, staying humble. Then towards the end of the year, you focus more on like teammate appreciation, self-awareness, role models beyond your blue jacket, and what comes after you retire. The booklet focuses on a different topic each week and has some prompting questions to really get you thinking. I find it's really interesting to see some of the state officers start a weekly topic thinking, they probably won't get much out of it. And then by the end of the week, they tell me how they really got them thinking about something they haven't before or something, or maybe the topic actually focused on something they were actually struggling with at the time and they were going through that week and it really helped them. The booklet is really meant to benefit you and your mindset. And I really find it broadens your horizons and how you look at things too. These topics that you find in the booklet are suggested by both national FFA and past Louisiana FFA state officers. In the booklet, you find some state officer responsibilities, your calendar at a glance. I actually have the booklet right here if you want to see. So all of you upon election are going to see the cool booklet like this. So again, it goes over it has a cool table of contents. It goes over your state officer at a glance. So it goes through every single event with a description of what that's going to look like. I can't see because yeah, you can see all that right here. They have descriptions, dates of when they're going to happen. So that's another way you get all of your information up front. If one day you ever feel like you want to learn more about a certain topic, we have an additional resources also in the booklet that provides different websites, YouTube channels, and books you can look into. Once a week for the booklet, you will be required to submit a reflection into the state officer coordinator through Google Forms. And each reflection comes with a prompt that gets you thinking about the topic. And the great thing about it is that you can share as much information as you want. The state officer coordinator is going to be the only one who reads them. And a lot of my current state officers, they kind of tell me about how their week went. Sometimes they'll tell me how they felt about the reflection topic and what it got them thinking. Sometimes they'll tell me what areas they want to improve on. This is your time to tell the state officer coordinator as much as you want and maybe kind of where you want to be, where you want to go, and they can help you through that throughout the year. There's no word limit or minimum, and I find the more you share the more it's going to help you improve in the long run and goals or standards you want to set with yourself to become accomplished. And there goes Sarah. Sarah's joining us. All right, and then the third part of this capstone program is Habitudes. So at Checkpoint 2, we give you this book called Habitudes, and I have an example of it right here. It's a short little book, really nice read. I love reading Habitudes as a state officer. It's really good. Each chapter consists of 3 to 5 pages of stories and solutions that prepare state officers for the end of their year of service. So this book is provided to us by National FFA, in which other state FFA officers throughout the country read this. So it's not just Louisiana reading this, but it's all the states reading this book. You start to read Habitudes in January and continue reading until the first week of June. And we have a schedule for when you read each chapter until then. So, and just like the booklet, they're meant to correlate with your progression throughout the year. And there's 13 chapters, each chapter 3 to 5 pages, really easy and good read. And some of the weekly reflections that you submit with the booklet, they'll have some Habitudes prompts based on when you're required to read each chapter. All right, that is our capstone program. And lastly, I think state officer policies is the last thing we're going to go over before I go to our 10-minute break and we go to our knockdown process. So if I don't have any questions so far, we'll go ahead and continue. All right, so one of our first procedures is that you must submit a copy of your driver's license or a deed with your state officer application. We do this because we need it. So whenever we schedule your plane tickets to go to State Officer Summit and National Convention throughout the year, we need that to be able to book your tickets. Let's see, you pay nothing out of pocket when we travel together. That goes for food, hotel rooms, and transportation. Be willing to fly If you're scared of planes, it's okay. I was terrified of planes when I first started, but it's really not that bad. It's really not that bad. You gotta get over it. It's actually really nice. You can hop on a plane an hour later at your destination. Let's see, if you do travel on your own and you're driving your own vehicle, you will get reimbursed 50 cents per mile. So for all of your required travel, such as going to state FFA events, state LDEs, CDEs, camps, conferences, you will get reimbursed 50 cents for the miles that you travel to the event and back home from the event. Now make sure like any travel you do is approved by the state office. You can't just be a state officer and travel somewhere if we don't know about it and try to get reimbursed for it. Like that doesn't work. And you also shouldn't be traveling anywhere as a state officer without the state office knowing about it. You can get in a lot of trouble for that. For unrequired travel, like going to chapter visits, we also reimburse you up to 90 minutes of the mileage for that trip. And we also try to get y'all to do 2 long trips for your chapter visits so that you can kind of go to different areas of the state, and we kind of go that to 2. If you get any meals during your visits that you conduct, like let's say you have an early morning trip and you stop for breakfast, you can be reimbursed for that. On our reimbursement form, we have different dollar signs for each of the reimbursements. So like breakfast, I don't know if this is correct. I think breakfast might be like $6, lunches 10, dinner 15. It's something like that. Like the prices go up throughout the day. Try to submit your mileage at least once a month using our online form that we're going to provide to you once you get elected. And always remember that your reimbursements are going to be contingent on fulfilling your requirements. So if you have any overdue or missing assignments, we're going to wait for you to finish and get those assignments into us before we submit your reimbursements. Wardrobe. All right, so as a state officer, you're going to get your jackets, ties, scarves, and polos provided to you by the state FFA office. You also get your gold officer position pins, the chains, and the state degrees also going to be provided to the state office with you. So make sure your chains, they break throughout the year. Some of the state officers have had their chains break, but a lot have. So if it does break, that's okay. Let your state officer coordinator know, and we can get it replaced for you the next time that we see you. You always want to make sure you're in the proper official dress at all times and your chains are part of that. Also, if you ever get your official dress jacket dry clean, take your chains and pins off of it before you send it to the dry cleaners. I've had one state officer send it with like the chains and everything on, and it came back like absolutely ruined. So you want to make sure you avoid that. So for the officers, we tell y'all to purchase coordinating official dress pants, skirts, tights, and shoes. So especially for the girls, whenever you get with your teammates, look at different brands and styles of pants and skirts and shoes that you want to get, and all of you guys have to have matching ones, because we try to have our state officer team do a uniform look, so we require that you have matching pants, skirts, and shoes. And for your tights, we try to get y'all the same color of tights. So if you as a team decide you want to have your tights be more lighter color, that's fine. Try to get everyone to do a light color. But if y'all want to do more dark color, try to get all the state officer girls to do a darker colored tight. For your pants and skirts, I do not allow skirts that hug your body. For our state officers, you can see how right here on Annie and Lauren, you can see how their skirts kind of like fall straight down. That's kind of the look we go for. I don't allow any skirts that like hug your body, because I just feel like the skirts that fall straight down give a more professional look. Also goes with pants. The pants that y'all decide to wear, I don't allow pants that are skinny leg pants. So you can do pants that, fall straight down on your leg. They can go out more, but absolutely no skinny leg. Like it can't be hugging your calves. So whatever pant y'all do decide, again, make sure y'all have the same brand and everything for that. Also, we have y'all wear casual official dress. That goes for your polos and khaki pants or shorts. We make y'all wear brown belts, and you can either do Sperry's or Hey Dudes for your casual official dress shoe. I'll let y'all decide that once y'all get elected, whether you want to do Sperry's or Hey Dudes. And you were also recommended to wear light coats, so like during the winter time as you're going on state officer duties and you're wearing casual official dress, you can wear a coat. Just make sure it's not like a bulky, huge coat. Like try to say something more light that doesn't really take away from your casual official dress. And again, no excessive or large jewelry. You don't want to wear anything that's going to be taking away from your state officer attire. Like don't let your, blue jacket or casual official dress be your attire. Don't let like a huge necklace or earrings take that away from what you're wearing. Do you have any questions on wardrobe? Moving on, social media. So staff reserves the right to police and take action when your social media accounts are used inappropriately. And this goes for both your Louisiana FFA state officer accounts and personal accounts. Both of them will be monitored. So at all times, you want to make sure you're upholding that premier FFA leadership standard as a state officer. Use it for positive promotion, share posts about events you go to, members you meet, chapters you get to visit, accomplishments throughout the year, you're traveling, fun facts. Colton, he does a TikTok series where he talks about different agriculture in different states. Grace would post like a lot of fun facts about agriculture on her social media. Like make it fun, make it your own. And we give you a state officer Canva account to help with that design and creation of what you do post on your state officer account. Communications. So your state officer coordinator is going to send you weekly updates. Make sure you respond when needed. My rule of thumb is always respond to emails within 1 business day, respond to messages within 8 business hours, and send and respond any letters that you have within 2 weeks. So sometimes you go on chapter visits and the chapter will send you like a little thank you card, or we require whenever you go on chapter visits for you to send a thank you card to the chapter and make sure those get sent out or received within 2 weeks. And that is all I have so far for state officer programs. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break. So be back here by 10:10. And Sarah Toll is going to take over and go through our nominating committee process. And you guys get to ask her any questions you have. So if you have any questions for what we just went over, you can stay on. I'll be here during the break and I'll be able to answer them. But if not, you can go. 10:10. All right, we'll be starting up within the next minute. As you come back, go ahead and turn your Zoom camera on so we can go ahead and get started with the nominating committee process. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Sarah, why aren't you in the office today?
I don't work there anymore, unfortunately.
Good.
I have to get like a big girl job with like big girl hours, and it was sad.
This is literally big girl hours. Literally big girl hours right now.
But I'm off on Fridays, which is really, really nice.
All right, is everybody back? So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, Sarah, you can go ahead and take it away.
Alrighty, hello everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces, which is exciting. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Sarah Toll. I was an area officer, state officer, and two-time national officer candidate. I also worked at the state office with Victoria for 4 years. I graduated this past May. And I'm our nominating committee coordinator, along with Tristan Foray, who's going to be working with me. I've been putting on the area, state, and national officer selection process for I think like the last 3.5, 4 years. And every year we're improving. If you ran for area officer last year, I'm sure you saw my face quite a lot. Last year for our state nominating committee process, I don't mean to brag, but I think it was the best we've ever had. I think it resulted in a really amazing officer team. I was really proud of our nominating committee, and I think it was just a great experience. And we're going to be using all of those logistics and process back into this year. So today, what I'm going to be doing is going over the expectations for you as a state officer candidate. Victoria's going to, she's taking care of you of what to expect from the state officer experience. And I'm kind of what's going to get you to that state officer experience through our nominating committee process. Cannot emphasize this enough. If you have a question, if I'm not clear about something, I've been doing this for years. Sometimes I forget to go over very important things and I have to be stopped. Please unmute and ask me. There is no such thing as a silly question. Our primary goal is that you get to Alexandria and you know exactly what's expected of you. You know exactly what the rounds are going to look like. You know exactly what you have to do in each of these, interviews and facilitation rounds, that you feel confident and capable and sure of yourself. We want you to be comfortable. We understand this is a nerve-wracking process. I've been through it a few times. Victoria's been through it a few times. We understand, but we want you to be comfortable with the process. We're going to go through the rounds. There are 6 in total. We're going to go through exactly what you're going to be scored off of, as well as some other expectations. Like I said, please stop me. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so start off with the basics. What is the nominating committee process? When you come to Alexandria, you're going to be put through a 2.5-day process filled with interviews, filled with meeting with the nominating committee. So these interviews are a little different than the typical job interview. And y'all from, you have experience in leadership in the FFA, you understand kind of what different nominating process looks like. It's different interview rounds and facilitation rounds, knowledge skill rounds that shows and test your skills that are necessary to being a state officer. Victoria kind of walked you through the expectations of your state officer year. It's a lot. To be a state officer, you have to be very well-rounded. You have to have a lot of different skills and aspects of an officer. So we test those skills in the process to make sure you have them moving forward. And you're scored by a committee of your peers and mentors. And I'll get into who those people are going to be as well. So let's see. On the nominating committee process, we have 8 current FFA members. So it'll be 2 from Area 1, 2 from 2, 2 from 3, 2 from 4. We have 4 adult members, 1 from Area 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 past state officer. I really like this makeup of, a group of representatives because you have your peers from all around the state. You also have your mentors from all around the state that have experience and wisdom in agriculture and leadership. And then you also have a past state officer that's been through this experience and kind of has that relatability factor that they can kind of put themselves in your shoes. So I really like the makeup of the nominating committee, and I think it's done well in the past to make a really good decision. So our primary goal is, of course, at the end of the day, I wish everyone could be a state officer, but we have to, at the end of the day, select the best 10 student representatives of Louisiana FFA to represent us as a state. And it's not just the best 10 people, it's the best 10 as a unit, as a team, who can work and meld together to represent as a unit. And along with that, we want all of you, no matter if you end up being elected or not, to come away from this experience with a positive developmental experience. We don't want this to be scarring. We don't want this to be negative in any way. We want you to be proud of it and have a good time while you're doing it. So how do we do this? We did not come up with this process overnight. It has been in the works for, Mr. Lejeune would probably say maybe 6 years, getting to the point where we are. I was first elected as a state officer, 6 years ago. And the process that selected me, it is like night and day to the process that we use now in a very good way. We don't willy-nilly anything. Everything has a reason. Everything has, development and research put behind it. We're very proud of it. We use a highly structured process. It is fair and transparent. Everything that you need to know on your end, we're open. There's no gray areas. There's no secrets. We're very transparent and we're very proud of that. You'll be going through a professional developmental interviewing process and experience. You'll have access to current and relevant resources that you will need to prepare for the process. And then we'll use competencies, which are the building blocks of how you're scored. They use this at the national level. Everything we use comes from National FFA. We see the national officer selection process as kind of the gold standard on how to select the best officer team. Tristan, who I mentioned, who helped me with state and area last year, he sat on the national officer nominating committee. He got to select national officers and see that, at the highest possible level, he was there and got to watch the process. And then he came back and was able to implement so many things from nationals into our state process, and you could see the improvement. So the competencies, the scoring, the deliberation, the process, the interview rounds, everything is from nationals. And I think it reflects on the quality of the officer team that comes out of it. All right, I know this is what y'all want to get to. This selection committee process will have 6 rounds, 3 on one day, 3 on the next day. It will be jam-packed, I promise you that. And all of these rounds are the same rounds that national officers go through. You're going to hear me say that a lot. So we can go ahead with the first round. This is going to get into the part where if y'all have questions, go ahead and interrupt me, write whatever you have a question, because I might forget. So the very first round is called the personal panel introduction. This round, exactly what it sounds like. It'll be the first time the committee will get to meet you. They'll have access to your application, you know, the answers you had to answer, your photos, and kind of have a name and a general idea. This will be the first time that they lay eyes on you and get to have a conversation with you. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's an introduction. This is the chance to build a first and important first impression. You will walk into the committee room. The committee will all be seated. I like to use a U. So you walk in and you're going to be in the middle of that U. Most likely we'll have a chair for you, optional if you want to, if you're more comfortable standing, more comfortable sitting. For me, I always like to sit. It puts us at the same level of the committee. It helps build more rapport, makes me relatable. We're on the same level, but it's up to you. They're get to know you type questions. So from when the first person asks the question, I'm going to start a timer. You have 5 minutes in total to answer 3 introduction questions. If you, for some reason, don't get to answer all the questions in 5 minutes, you will be cut off and you will not be able to finish. You're going to hear that a lot through all 6 of these rounds. Perfect practice makes perfect performance in my mind. So you need to be practicing these questions. I always say practice 3 questions at a time, set a 5-minute timer, see where you're lying, you know, in the time. You also don't want to have 5 minutes to build rapport, relationships, you know, give evidence to the committee and only take up 60 seconds. That's 4 minutes that you could have built, you know, be building your story, building your resume with this committee. We want you less than 5, but like, take your time. They're going to be get to know you type questions. Think whenever you're first meeting someone, type those types of questions. They're get to know you. Some examples, how do you show others they can trust you? What's something valuable you bring to a team? What is your definition of leadership, etc. I will say in this first introduction panel, my biggest piece of advice is you need to, even if you don't say it directly, I would say your primary goal needs to be that you show the committee why you want to be a state officer with your answers and with how you connect with them. You need to walk out and then have some form of idea. Okay, I know who they are. I know why they're here. And that should be your primary goal. If you accomplish that, done. Awesome job. Any questions for personal panel introduction? All righty. So this was an old round that we brought back last year, and I'm so thankful we did. It was our committee's favorite round. They had a blast, and it's our one-on-one interviews. So how this works is it's kind of round robin style. All of our committee members are going to be at individual tables. You will get to speak to all of them. How many is it? 13? Yeah, you'll get to speak to all 13 committee members individually. This is your only time you'll be able to do this because you'll usually be speaking to them as a whole. They select individually their own questions to ask. We supply them with a question bank of, I think, like 250 personal questions. They take, 20 minutes and they read through them and they select either 2 or 3 from last year. Anyway, they select their own questions they want to ask. So when they're asking you these questions, just know they genuinely want to, ask them. They weren't assigned to them. They selected them themselves. How it will work is you will rotate from table to table. So you speak to me, I'll you'll speak to a committee member. I'll have a 3-minute timer. When the timer goes off, you can shake their hand, thank them for speaking to you, and then you'll rotate to the next table. Sit down, have 3 minutes to speak to that person. Timer goes off, go to the next table. It will be a lot of talking back to back to back to back. You will have, I don't know, like 60 seconds in between each person for the committee member to score the person before you. So you will have like a chance to kind of breathe and like settle yourself before you go to the next person. We're not just going to throw you in. Let's see. Yeah, it allows you to build rapport, relationships with the committee members. From speaking from last year, I know that this round was a pivotal round in terms of personality, in terms of conversation skills, relatability. The committee members who sat down with officer candidates and they're like, wow, I could speak to them like for 3 hours. It was just like so natural me speaking to them. I remember one committee member last year said a really awesome thing about an officer candidate. They said, whenever I sat down and talked to them, it was like I was just talking to a friend. And I really think that's how you should come off. Some questions, tell me a time that you worked with someone different than yourself. Where do you see yourself in 10 years, etc. I did notice, depending on the committee member last year, some of them go more. I think one of the questions last year is, what is one struggle that agriculture is facing that you're really passionate about? So it might be more agriculture, not really knowledge-based, but more, I guess, evidence-based sometimes, because that's what the committee member wants to know. Majority of the time, it's going to be more personality and get to know you wise. Any questions about this round?
So is like, hold on, let me turn my camera on. So each committee member, do they only ask one question?
Oh, such a great question. This is why I told y'all to ask me questions. So in this round, make a note of this. I should have covered this. The 3 minutes we understand is a very short amount of time. Whenever I ran for nationals, I think the time with each committee member was like 15 minutes. It was exhausting. But because of the number of candidates we have, the number of committee members we have, and the hours in the day, we have to cut it down pretty short. They supplied 2 main questions. We supplied them with 2 main questions, and they had a third question kind of like ready to go if needed. If you get cut off answering these questions, it does not count against you. We do want you to answer both of the questions. I know this goes against what I just said in the first round, but because of the amount of time, and it's also more of a conversation, it's not just up to you based on how long you take. It's going to be you and the committee member. Because I noticed last year, some committee members kind of, gave not feedback, but they were like, oh, that's really interesting. My sister thinks blah, 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 blah. And that's not going to count against you. However, it just because you're not getting deducted for time, you do need to make sure that you're making that impression and you're hitting those competencies in the time allotted. If you answer the questions before the time runs out, you'll kind of see the committee member finish their notes, and then they'll kind of sit back and y'all can just talk. They'll ask you how your time's going, how the weather outside, did you drink enough coffee today? They kind of just get to and you'll see them. It's so funny. You can see them just like, okay, committee hat off, let's just talk. And those are some really important conversations as well. Just because they're not asking you official questions doesn't mean what you say can or can't be used against or for you. Does that answer your question? That was a really great question. Any other questions? I told you I ask questions because I forget. All righty. Okay, y'all. This round gives me anxiety, and I haven't had to do this round in about 4 years. This is our stand and deliver round. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's very polarizing. Stand and deliver. You will be expected to give a 4 to 5 minute speech on an assigned topic. Last year was 5 to 6. We thought that was just a little too much for, state non-com. It went over time a little bit. So we're going to lower it just a little bit, 4 to 5 minutes, which means that the speech should be longer than 4, but shorter than 5. You will be moved individually to a preparation room. You will be given a prompt and 20 minutes to prepare your speech. The prompt will be knowledge-based. It will either be about FFA, agriculture education, or the agriculture industry. It will be about one of those 3 things. It might combine 2 of those things, like how does, the FFA Association help agriculture education, et cetera, et cetera. But it'll be surrounded around those 3 things. You will have 20 minutes with your prompt, with like pens and pencils, paper, and index cards. That's it. When I tell you, we're not going to body search you, but no smartwatches. We're going to check your wrist. We're going to check your ears to make sure you don't have any, what are these? AirPods. Make sure you turn in your phone to us. We might even check for notes. We are so strict about this, y'all, because we want to make sure it's fair. You walk in, you'll have 20 minutes. One of our volunteers or state staff will time you in the prep room. When your 20 minutes is up, you will be taken from the preparation room. If you choose to use index cards, that's completely okay, but you will bring them with you. Let the volunteer staff member know, hey, these are my index cards. I wrote them in the room, and they'll be the index cards we provide, so we'll know about that. Let's see, once time is up. Okay, is there another slide, Vic? Okay, so you will be moved into the committee room. They're going to be back in this U. You walk in and they're going to be seated in the U originally. There's not going to be a chair this time. You'll be standing, stand and deliver, and give your speech. When you walk in, the speech, I will start your time when you begin speaking. I'm not going to start it when you stand, because some people got to get their breath together and calm themselves down. When you're ready, some people give me a thumbs up, that's fine. This is the only round you will get a time warning. So I'll have a piece of paper, and so Tristan and I, we're sat behind the committee to where you can't really see us, but if I stand up, you can. I'm going to have a piece of paper that says 1 minute warning, and I'm going to raise it above my head, and I'm going to make eye contact with you to make sure you see that and you have 1 minute left. It says stopped at 6 minutes. You'll be stopped at 5 minutes. You'll get a 1 minute warning at 4 minutes. So at 4 minutes, 1 minute warning. That means wrap it up in the next 60 seconds. If not, you're not going to like the sound of my voice when I call time. So whether you time out or whether you end the completion of the speech, the one committee member will ask you a question. It'll be a knowledge-based question that's predetermined, meaning no matter what you talk about your speech, everybody gets the same question. This is a little different from the national level, because on the national level, they bring in an expert with 28 PhDs on the topic, and they just ramble questions at you for 10 minutes. We're not going to do that to you. It's one question. We also, I don't know if I covered this last year, but we did do it last year. We fact check, which means if a committee member has a question about the factual trueness of something you say, they can raise their hand and request a fact check. And then last year, whatever the topic was, Lainey LeBlanc sat on the committee, and she was the expert, and she was able to answer, yes, what they said is correct based off this research, so they're completely true. Or I don't know if we had anything that wasn't true, but it would be like, well, technically it's like a gray area. What they said is this, and it could be taken as true, and we have to have research to back it up. you will only be, I don't want to use the term called out, but you'll only be fact checked if a committee member requests it. I really like this. Using this kind of like fact check, I think we should come up with like a better term for it, because like I said, we want a fair process. If I come out and say, well, the Louisiana FFA has 5 million members and we all become president of the United States and we're the best in the country, I don't need to be getting any points for knowledge, because I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. I need to be fact checked and corrected. So, you know, the hard work you put into your research and preparation, you need to be awarded that. I'm not saying any of y'all are going to say anything like that, but an example prompt, which it obviously won't be, but something similar, is as a state officer. Now I'm going to cut right here. As a state officer, you will see in your prompts, it will say as a state officer. It will not say as a state officer candidate, because you in these rounds, it's stand and deliver, round robin, and facilitation. We'll get into the other two. You were to go into that round like you are a state officer. If you're talking to the Louisiana Department of Education in the prompt, you're speaking to them as a state officer. So it's the same thing they do at national. So I would say, you know, like as a national officer, I get to travel the country, yada, yada, yada. Or I'll say my national officer team and I. You can say the same thing. You can talk about being a state officer, your state officer team, kind of like representing already, being a state officer and representing Louisiana FFA. I really like this because it helps you as a candidate show the committee like, hey, I'm already embodying being a state officer, and it kind of like helps the committee member already picture you on the team. And I think it just helps you out more. So as a state officer, you're asked to give a speech to Random High FFA chapter senior members on why they should join the Louisiana FFA alumni once they graduate. In your presentation, you should cover what the FFA alumni is, the benefits of joining, and what the alumni does to help the Louisiana FFA Association. So obviously you won't have this prompt, but the prompt you will have is going to be built just like this. It'll say who you are. It's always going to be, I'll let y'all in on a secret. It's going to say as a state officer. It will say who you're speaking to. It's going to give you the audience. One thing you'll be scored on is understanding your audience, meaning if you're talking to junior high members on why they should join FFA next year, compared to you're speaking to elderly farmers on modern technology and how that should be employed in their, production, you will have very different tones, very different vocabulary, very different presence. So you'll be given your audience and you are scored on understanding and presenting correctly to the assigned audience. You'll obviously be given your topic, and I usually will give 2 to 3 bullet points that you need to hit. Here it's what the alumni is, the benefits of joining, and what the alumni does for FFA. The committee, so Tristan is going to train the committee vigorously on scoring these speeches. And we kind of use, it's like literally a checkbox on one of the things you're scored on is answering the prompt. Even if you answer, what the alumni is and the benefits of joining, if you don't tell me what the alumni does for FFA, you didn't answer the prompt in fullness. So it may or may not count against you. So make sure when you're practicing, these prompts, these stand and delivers, you are answering the prompt in fullness. It also helps you hit that time to make sure that you kind of have laid out, okay, I'm going to talk about this, then I'm going to talk about this, then I'm going to talk about this. All you extemp speakers listen to me, I'm probably like preaching to the choir, but for people like me who are prepared speakers and hate extemp speaking, that helped me in my preparation. I see some people laughing. Yes, like prepared speakers can do well at stand and deliver. I promise. It just takes practice. Index cards. This came up last year. You are allowed to ask to use index cards. And people always ask, well, do I get points deducted? We're done with the, used index cards -5 points. Ran over time -10 points. Done with it. I don't like it. It's not applicable to how you'll do as a state officer. However, you will be scored on like confidence and, whatever the competency will be in there, comfortability with the topic. If you are using index cards and you're only using them for reference and you only use them occasionally, that's going to be counted a lot different than if you are so nervous and unsure of what you're talking about, you're sitting there and reading off the index card. Those two people should not be counted off the same amount of points. It's not equivalent. So the use of index cards, I always say, try not to use them. But some people are like, it's my crutch. I need to use my index cards or I'm not going to be able to go in there and give a speech. Totally fine. But use them as they're meant to be used. And that's as a reference, not as your full resource. Who wants to sit there and watch somebody read off an index card? Not me and not the committee, I promise you. So it just depends how you use it. Yeah. Any other questions about stand and deliver? I know I've been rambling for a little bit. And if you have a question, please ask.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the fact check thing, is that going to be used in every round or just the stand and deliver round?
This is the only round.
Okay, thank you.
Because the only other round you would need to be fact checked in is the round robin, where you're speaking to representatives on knowledge-based topics. But since you're talking it's a conversation with an expert, and if you say something wrong, they're probably going to call you out right there in the conversation. Be like, oh, that's interesting you say that because I thought this. So this is the only round that you'll be fact checked, because it's just you get 5 minutes to say a speech and then you leave the room, and what if that 5 minutes you're not being factually correct? So yeah, that was a good question. Anything else for stand and deliver?
I'm not sure if you already mentioned it, but I know for area last year, we didn't get any type of resources. Are we going to get that this year or no?
So for area last year, correct me if I'm wrong, the stand and deliver was not completely factually based just because of the time. I forgot what it was. However, yes, but you will not be provided it in the room. You'll be provided, Victoria, I don't know if we're getting into later, the state officer candidate like resources on our FFA page, if we'll get into that later. But you'll be provided resources leading up to convention. In the room, absolutely no resources. Any other questions, or does that answer that?
That answers. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Keep them coming. All righty. Okay, so after the stand and deliver, we'll go to sleep, wake up, and we'll do advocacy round robin. Very fun round. Very action-packed round as well. So you will have, in this one round, you will have 3 interview rounds with representatives from FFA, agriculture education, and the agriculture industry. So the committee members will be divided into 3 groups to observe the 3 different rooms. You have 13 members. Okay, so it'll be like 4, 4, and 5. So 4 committee members will be in the FFA room, 4 in the ag room, and 5 in the ag ed room. And they will only watch you in that room. This is the only round where not all committee members will see you in the same environment, but that's why they're taking notes, and in the deliberation and scoring, don't worry, you will be well represented. So this round is one of the hardest to explain because it is a little different. How it'll work is 3 candidates will go at the same time. So say me, Victoria, and Emily are going together. All the rooms will be next to each other, and it's literally making a triangle circle. I'll go to room A, Victoria, room B, Emily, room C. In those rooms, we'll have 4 minutes to talk to our representative. When time is called, we'll come out and we'll switch. I'll go to room B, Vic to room C, Emily to room A, and then we'll switch again until all three of us have been to all three rooms, and then all three of us are done with this round. Then we'll bring in the next three candidates and so forth. Before you walk into the room, you'll be handed a paper outside the room by one of our volunteers. You'll look at it and it'll say, you're about to speak to so-and-so about such and such. You'll have 60 seconds to read it. It's going to be shorter than a stand and deliver prompt because you're not about to go give a speech. You're about to have a conversation. It just lets you know, hey, this is the FFA room and you're speaking to this person and they want to know about this. Kind of to just prepare yourself. You'll walk in. It will be so obvious who you're talking to. The committee will probably be seated pretty far away from you. They will be strongly instructed to not interact with you. Okay, you see how Caleb right here is reading his paper? That's what you're gonna look like before you walk in, like just a little piece of paper. You're not gonna write anything down, anything. That's how you're gonna look right before you walk in. There will be a timekeeper in each room. This will be the first time I'm not necessarily the timekeeper, but somebody will be in there and they'll be keeping time. The time will start when the conversation starts. This means not necessarily when you speak, the time starts, but any interaction between you and the representative, your time starts. Important note as well, we expect you to take all 4 minutes. We want you to get cut off. I know it goes against everything we're like bred to believe, but we want you to get cut off in this round. We want you to take the full time. When time is called, so I'll go time, you can thank the person for talking to you. You can shake their hand, say it was very nice talking to you, wrap it up, and you'll walk out. You cannot, when time is called, add anything of evidence or anything of fact support into anything. I think that kind of goes without saying. Just thank them, shake their hand, and leave. If you go, oh, and I want to add a point about how, the 3-circle model, you're going to get cut off and it's going to be a little embarrassing. So don't do that. Okay, here's an example prompt. And this is a really long prompt. Yours is not going to be like this. You're about to speak to Mr. Random Ag Teacher from Random High FFA chapter. Boom, who you're talking to. He's wondering how to get his students more interested in competing in different career development events. Boom, what you're talking about. Many of his students do not come from agricultural backgrounds, so they don't feel they can be successful in these competitions. As a national officer, as a state officer, you are asked to have a conversation with Mr. Random Ag Teacher about how to get more non-traditional FFA members like those at his school involved with CDEs. Okay. Who you're talking to, who you are, what they want to talk about. Those are the 3 ingredients you will have going into each of these rounds. You'll read it, you'll walk in, you'll have the conversation, come out, switch. Can we go back to the last slide, Vic? Okay, I didn't cover this. One round will be a media style round. It can be ag, it can be ag ed, it can be FFA. You will know because it will be like so-and-so with magazine such and such wants to talk to you. We use this media round because as a state officer, I don't know if y'all saw the Twyla episodes that our state officers just did, but media is important. You see this person right here at the top corner, they're doing a media interview for some TV channel. You're going to do that as a state officer. It kind of shows your comfortability, your presence in front, not necessarily of a camera, but just kind of in that media aspect, how you're going to portray and represent and kind of be the face of Louisiana FFA. Last year, so cool. We got to bring in Avery Davidson with Twyla, and we had like a whole camera crew recording the interview and like what's going on at Louisiana FFA convention. It was really awesome for our state officers and our committee members to get to see that. Let's see, at nationals, one year I was like in a radio studio and I got to put on the headphones and speak into the microphone. That's cool. What did we do for our national officer selection? A couple months ago, for our national officer selection, we set up a podcast table, and it was the committee member and the representative getting to host a podcast together. It can be anything. You can be sitting down with a recorder and it's a newspaper interview. Just be prepared for that. It shouldn't necessarily change any of your preparation. The media style round most likely is going to be more of a question, answer. The other 2 rounds, I do encourage you to make it a conversation. This is why it's a conversation and not an interview in these 2 rounds. Meaning if the representative asks you a question, you can give your answer, but kind of give them a chance to talk as well. We want it to be very balanced. I noticed this most recently at our national officer selection. It did get brought up, like, I really appreciated how that candidate, included the representative and asked questions back to them. It really showed that they have strong conversation skills. Boom, you're hitting a competency there. Yeah, let time be called. I would be sure that, as difficult as it is, be looking at the representative you're talking to. For me, it is so difficult because I'm like, oh gosh, what is the committee thinking? Like, are they scoring me hard? Are they frowning? Are they laughing at me? I'm like wanting to look at them. It's not going to be, it's just try as hard as you can to look at the representative. I encourage people to, like I said, perfect practice makes perfect performance. If you want to practice around robin, maybe have your ag teacher or someone that makes you really nervous at the side and work on not looking at them. That's what I did, and it helps me out. Any questions for advocacy round robin? Either I'm doing a good job of explaining it or we're all lost. So I'm hoping everybody's confident. Okay, we can move on. Okay. Facilitation. Everyone in this Zoom meeting has been to a workshop, which I think is great. So everybody, probably most people here have put on workshops. So we're good on that. I don't have to explain what that is. And you can see some pictures. I see Colton and Sydney putting on workshops. That's awesome. That's going to be similar to what you'll be doing. You'll be broken into groups. No telling how many, it depends. Probably no more. I would cut it off at 4. I would say absolutely no more than 4, and minimum, I guess, of 2. It all just depends on the number of candidates we have. But nobody's going to facilitate on their own, is what I'm getting at. You'll have 30 minutes to prepare a 10-minute portion of a student workshop in front of an actual student audience. This means we are bringing in a chapter or a group of students that are not on the committee. Their sole purpose there is to participate in the workshop that you're putting on. They do not have input on your scoring. They do not get to talk to the committee about who they liked most. They're really there to act as the student representatives and to participate in the activities that you're planning. We do instruct those student audience members that no matter if it's the first group to go or the last group to go, you answer every question asked, you participate in every activity given, you give the same energy at every group. Let's see. When you go into your preparation room with your group, you'll have a prompt. It'll have an overall, can we go back real quick? It'll have an overall objective and kind of what is expected of you. In that room as well, you'll be provided with materials that you can incorporate into your presentation. The same thing we did for stand and deliver, we'll be doing for facilitation. You can't come with a workshop already planned on, a piece of paper, anything like that. Give me one moment, y'all. My grandma's sick and she's texting me. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. So sorry about that. My grandma's in the hospital and she was texting me. I need to make sure she's okay. Okay. You'll be provided materials in the preparation room. I can guarantee there will be flip charts, or what are we calling them now, Vic?
Tear sheets.
Tear sheets. There will be tear sheets, markers, and paper. And sticky notes. I'll go ahead and let y'all know you're going to have sticky notes. That is the only thing I can guarantee you will have in that room. You can have, a multitude of things in that preparation room. You can have cups, Jenga blocks, balls, string, clips, tape. I don't know, whatever we, okay, Nana's okay, y'all. Whatever, it's a random mystery assortment of items. And whatever materials you have access to, all the other groups are going to have access to the exact same items. If you go first, your group, and there's 12 plastic cups in the prep room, if you go last, they're going to have 12 plastic cups to go through. Like, everybody has the same amount, the same number of everything to make sure it's fair. The student audience will already be supplied at their table with writing utensils and paper. Like, they'll have their pen and they'll have like white copy paper. So we're not having to transfer paper back and forth and back and forth. Anything else you'll have to bring into the room. Oh, depending on the number, yeah. Okay, we can go next. Here's an example prompt that you'll have in the preparation room. It'll say like, as a state officer team, or as a group of state officers, something along those lines. You've been asked to present a workshop for the Shock Random FFA chapter. Their advisor has asked you to present a demonstration for their first year agri-science students on FFA opportunities and how to find your place inside the organization. If you're sensing a pattern, that's good. It's following who you are, who you're talking to, and what needs to be covered. It's going to be in every prompt that I give you, I promise. So here, your audience is first year agri-science students, and it's kind of introducing them to FFA. So you and your group are going to be like, okay, we have 30 minutes and a 10-minute presentation. What are we going to do? Some pieces of advice. Everyone should equally be able to participate, meaning amongst your group. It should not be that one person takes the driver's seat and the other two are in the back seat. That's not going to look good on any one of your group. Obviously, answer the prompt. The next thing, let's see, I would make sure you're including all student audience members. That comes up. You might be scored on engagement and inclusivity. And if the committee notices, well, there was one student audience member that never got called on, never got asked, never got checked on, they'll be noticing. What else? Any questions about this round? This round is a lot to explain.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, if we want to use tear sheets in our workshop, are we gonna have like a little bit of time beforehand to stick them up on the walls if we want to do something with that?
I told y'all, ask me questions because I always forget. Yes, when you come in, whatever materials you have, you will be able to set them up. It will not count against your 10 minutes. You can set them up at nationals. They timed us like 2 minutes and it was like nerve wracking because you're like trying to get everything ready. I don't expect it should take y'all very long to set up anything. However, when you come to set up the materials, if you need to, you are not to interact or engage or have conversation with the student audience or the committee. The first sign of engagement, of conversation, I'm going to start your time, because everybody has the same amount of time to engage with the audience and build rapport. So you can come in, you can say hi while you're putting up your tear sheets, but don't, I just wouldn't say anything. Whenever I was a national officer candidate, I was setting up my facilitation and I kicked a student on accident, and I was so scared I didn't even say sorry. And I was like so embarrassed. So yeah, I just wouldn't engage with anybody. Set up your tear sheets, and then somebody can give me a thumbs up, or y'all can just go straight in. It doesn't bother me. I'll know when to start the timer. This is another round. It says 10 minutes, but if we think about it, you know, how I say a workshop is typically 60 to 90 minutes, and saying we're giving a 10-minute portion of it, it's cutting it close. I say use the full 10 minutes. The committee is going to know that as well. This is probably the hardest part to explain, and I'm happy to send y'all an email with kind of like an example prompt of how it typically should look. I always say start in the middle of the workshop. So if we're looking at like objectives, I would say I've already done objective 1. This is objective 2. Because if you think about it, you're taking the time to be like, hey y'all, I'm Sarah Toll, I'm from Tioga, and today we're going to be talking about, everybody does that. Get straight to the meat and juicy part of it. Here's a piece of advice. This is what I was taught by a former national officer, and I used it in every single facilitation round I did. You can use this, or you can use your own form of it. I always say, now that we've accomplished insert objective 1, we can jump into insert objective 2. We're going to do this by direction set. Go into your first activity. Working in a team is obviously a little different, but somehow along those lines. You do not need to introduce yourselves. You do not need to say, we're going to be talking about today, blah, blah, blah. They know. If you finish what you have prepared before the 10 minutes, that's okay. Just wrap it up. You can say thank you and head out. I will say you're given 10 minutes. I don't want it to be a 4-minute presentation. I don't even want it to be a 6-minute presentation, because the committee knows you have 6 minutes to give this presentation, build rapport, give them evidence to build a case for you to be elected to a state officer. You need to take those 10 minutes. In your preparation, we can tell who kind of ran through, who's going to say what, who's going to cover what, and who didn't. I would suggest going over that. Okay, Sarah's going to, do the introduction. She's going to give the first direction set. Elizabeth is going to cover processing questions. And then Emily's going to jump into the next activity. Like, have a blueprint, even run through it while you're preparing. And it's going to look a lot, more put together. Any other questions? That was a great question.
How does it sound?
Sorry.
My bad.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
So for whenever we get into these groups, are they going to have these like pre-selected, like y'all are going to say, oh, this group is going to be so and so?
Y'all are coming with such good questions today, because I have that written down to cover and I didn't. So how we select groups, we give the committee a choice of how they want groups selected. We will not tell you how groups are selected. It can be, we give them a choice. It can just be random name selection. Sometimes they want it done by score, like put the 3 highest, at that time, based off raw score, the 3 highest scoring, then the next 3. I don't even remember what the committee did last year, but we give them a choice, and then Tristan and I make the groups. I will let you know, the committee does not have access to any scores at all during the facilitation. So they will not, even if they say we want to do it from top score down, whatever, they're not going to know, oh, this is your top score group. I also don't like that grouping, and we kind of let the committee know we don't like that grouping. I don't think it's accurate, like accurately representative how you will do as a team. I think last year we did random groups, but again, the committee just says, hey, we want to do random groups, or we want it based off, you know, one from this score region, one from this score region, and one from this score region, and we'll do that. The committee will not know anything of your scores, if at all. They just kind of tell us how they want the groups formed. You as a candidate group will not know how the groups are formed. I remember when I ran for state and we got our groups, I lost sleep over, oh my gosh, does this mean that I'm last in scores? And does this mean they don't like me? Get it out your head. Do not be thinking, you know, you'll run yourself paranoid thinking about like, okay, what does this mean about who I'm grouped with? You will know who your group is right before you go into the prep room, because we don't want anyone to have more time to prepare with their group than anyone else. So whoever is moving people into the preparation room will come and be like, okay, Victoria, Elizabeth, Sarah, group one, come with me. And you're going into a prep room. Any other questions? That was good.
Are the scores for this round based individually or as a group?
Awesome question. Again, they're individually. It usually takes a little more time to score this round because you're scoring 3 people at once. The committee, and this is for every round, and I'll get into it whenever we move into scoring, they're going to be taking notes on everything you say, on everything you do. When you walk out the room, I'm going to tell them, okay, everyone, we're going to score Sarah first. Pull up your facilitation scorecard for Sarah. Once they submit all of Sarah's scorecards, they'll be like, okay, pull up your facilitation scorecard for Victoria. And then they'll do that. And I'm checking to make sure that they're scoring the right person when I tell them, so they're not like, they put my name and then they score for Victoria. We're going to do it one at a time. So scoring takes a little while in this round, but it is individually, because what a teammate does should not affect you whatsoever. Anything else?
Will we be assigned different topics?
Nope. Everybody gets, that's a good question. Everyone will get the same prompt. Keep them coming. Anything else? All righty. We'll move on. Everybody take a big breath. Once we get done with facilitation, it's just like smooth sailing. And it's just so like, you can just feel the weight come off your shoulders. The last round, we've been through the world and back. The last round is just called final panel. And this round is designed identically, if you can remember all the way to the first round, to the personal panel introduction. It's designed identically. It's kind of like that's the open of the book, and this is us closing the book. You'll have 5 minutes to answer 3 questions in front of the entire committee. Set up procedure identical to first panel. You, chair in the middle of the U. This, like how I said, the first round is a first impression. This last round is the last impression. This gives the committee a chance to close, you know, tie off any loose strings that they have of you. So they need to be able to close the book on you as a candidate. And the next step for them is deliberation. They need to finish this final panel and move into deliberation. They need to know who you are, why you're there, and why they should, you know, advocate for you to be a state officer. Are there 2 slides for this, Vic? Okay. It's not on here, but make a note. We did this last year, and that I heard everyone liked it. This round is not done in official dress. This round is done in like nice casual. That's how they do it at national convention. We used that last year. It was really interesting to see the different dynamics. And the reasoning behind that is what Tristan, brought back from the national convention is we use our FFA jackets. We're proud to wear FFA jackets, but sometimes they can be used almost as like a shield. And we want to kind of strip off all barriers and make you completely vulnerable. And they don't want to see you. This is a piece of advice I got from a national officer, and it stayed with me. They don't want to see you as Sarah, the state officer candidate. This is the round they want to see Sarah. In this round, I don't know if y'all have heard about this round. Some people cry, some people don't. This round can be emotional. It just depends on who you are as a person. I heard a rumor that somebody says you have to cry to get elected. I don't know where that started. It's completely not true. Please don't force yourself to cry. But some people, I'm an easy cry baby, so it just depends on who you are. These questions, how the first ones are get to know you. These are kind of okay, this is your last chance to tell them I want this, and this is why I want this, and this means the world to me, and that, and so forth. And, if elected, what might you be scared of? You need to be telling them, I'm scared of this. I'm scared of disappointment. I'm scared of blah, 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 blah. If for a second they think, oh, you're putting on a performance, you have a mask on, you sound rehearsed, this doesn't seem honest and genuine to me, it's not going to bode well for you. I'm not saying that you're not going to get elected, but they're really looking for the genuine, the honest, the vulnerable, the shed off all barriers, and this is who I am. They're really looking for that. This round comes up a lot in deliberation. I guess all rounds do, but I do remember this round coming up a lot. And it was so obvious. Please don't think y'all can trick us or trick the committee. It's so obvious who comes in there and they're okay, this is who I am. And who comes in there and it's oh, I have to be cookie cutter, Miss Perfect. All my answers have to be, type A, amazing. And you might just miss the mark if you do that. But anyway, 5 minutes to answer 3 questions before the entire committee. Here's some example questions. They do select these questions. They select them after facilitation. I have a meeting with them and I'm okay, you've seen these candidates through 5 rounds. What is left to know? And last year they came up with some phenomenal questions. And I think they will again today. I mean, not today, this year. Just know the committee, I can't express this enough. The committee, except for the stand and deliver prompts and the round robin prompt, they come up with everything. So everything that you're scored off of, they are creating or they're selecting and voting on. So when you're answering these questions, just know they made them, they wrote them, they thought them, they discussed them, and that's what they want to know from you. Any questions about final panel? Okay, in terms of the not wearing official, I would just say no jeans. It doesn't have to be you don't have to come in a suit and tie. Oh, my Zoom went off. You don't have to come in a suit and tie and anything like that. I would wear clothes that you feel you're most confident and comfortable in. Clothes that make you feel like yourself. And I remember when we did this last year, a lot of candidates were that's weird. I want to wear official dress. I don't like doing rounds without official dress. And then once they got done with the round, they're wait, that was really cool. And the committee really enjoyed it too. If you have any questions about what can or shouldn't be incorporated into your wardrobe, you can always shoot me a text or send an email with what you have and I'll let you know. Last year, candidates were sending me pictures of them in their outfits and dresses, and they all looked amazing and gave them the thumbs up and they were ready to go. Any other questions? Alrighty. Does anyone have any questions? This is so important about any of the rounds we've talked about today. Okay, I'm gonna take it that y'all think I explained that well, and I'm not just rambling up here. Okay. So you've heard me say competencies over and over and over and over again. Back to whenever I first started ranting and rambling, I mentioned that we use a transparent and fair process. This plays into the transparency of it. I'm gonna tell y'all what you're scored on every single round, what they're scoring you on. No secrets. This is what you're scoring on. Like I said, we get everything from the national level. At the national level, they use 5 competencies. We use 5 competencies. Every competency is scored in every round, and every competency is equally scored in every round. The competencies are: number 1, communication. Demonstrates the effective forms of communication, which can be nonverbal, listening, written, speaking, facilitation to convey a message in both large group and one-on-one settings. This one's kind of easy to understand. Communication can be you giving your stand and deliver and conveying your message to the committee from that. It can also be you having a one-on-one conversation in the second round and building rapport in that. It can be in facilitation with you speaking to students. It can be in round robin. You need to have strong, connection with the person you're talking to. Communication is huge as a state officer. If y'all have questions about any of these competencies, stop me. The second competency is team player. You're elected to a state officer team. You need to be a team player. You need to be able to demonstrate the ability to work in a team setting, value diversity and opinion, work to be inclusive in the process, and willing to put others above self. You want to ask me, Sarah, we only work in a team setting in 1 of the 6 rounds. How can this work? You can get a lot about how you are as a team player from your individual answers. And I really like this last part, willing to put others above self. In your answers, if you're saying, I, me, I did everything by myself, I didn't have any help, doesn't come off like a team player. It can come on, facilitation. It can also be in round robin, engaging the other party, making sure, you're not just bulldozing through the round robin. Team player can look a lot different in a lot of different ways. Okay. Next, areas of knowledge. Demonstrate the ability to articulate the systematic nature of fiber food, agriculture, and natural resource issues, FFA, educational issues, and all respective current issues. Kind of exactly what it sounds like for stand and deliver, round robin, the hardcore, knowledge-based rounds. I'm making myself hoarse. But in personal rounds, areas of knowledge can also look like self-awareness, mature language, making sure that you're confident in what you're saying and you're aware of who you are. Areas of knowledge can look a lot different in a lot of the different rounds. Any questions for these first 3 competencies? Alrighty. The last 2, character. I've kind of been preaching this. Tristan, I wish he was here to talk to y'all, but Tristan, he said this is his favorite and most important competency to him, which I agree. Character. You need to display a disposition that is, what I've been saying, authentic, inclusive, responsible, honest, mature, confident, and respectful. I'm going to add genuine to that as well. Vulnerable to that as well. Relatable to that as well. This is the more of your who and your why. And that's kind of blanketed throughout all 6 rounds. And your last competency is influence. Demonstrates the ability to influence others through modeling expectations, building relationships, and growing the organization. Influence, how the committee kind of sees it, is how you make them feel when you're speaking to them, when you're presenting to them. Do you make them feel inspired? How do you kind of give them that spark? Whenever you leave the room, do they want more? Did you make them kind of, jump in their seats and become excited? That means you've influenced them. If you're just like this and it's like they feel the same before you walked in and before after, and you haven't changed anything in them, you might not, might need to work on your influence. And that might look the same. It looks different in all the rounds because your influence and your stand and deliver can be your call to action, your passion for the subject, your representation of FFA, and then influence on your one-on-one can be more, like small scale, more personable influence and just how you make them feel when you're talking to them. Remember how I said that committee member mentioned like talking to them was like talking to a friend. That person had great influence. Any questions about the competencies? All righty. Okay, I hate to be the one to say this, and I wish, like I said, I wish we could have 20-something state officers. We do hold the right, pending how many candidates we have, to hold a cut and advancement. We held the right last year, but because of like the amount of candidates and as well as the scores, we didn't have an advancement. But we want to let you know that pending number of candidates, there might be one. This would happen at the conclusion of round 3. What is that, stand and deliver? It'll be based off raw scores. So raw scores, you'll be notified that night, the night of night 1. Candidates who do not advance will not participate in the second day of interviews. So from facilitation on, it'll only be the candidates who advance. We will let you know this, Saturday night after Tristan and I have done all the scores. It'll be by individual emails / letters. I let everybody know, I think like a week or 2 weeks before convention last year, once we kind of got our final candidate number, that there was not going to be a cut. And I will do the same thing this year because the amount of candidates we have now might not be the amount of candidates we have 2 weeks before convention gets here. But I'm letting you know, prepare, yourselves to have a cut and advancement. The committee, I want this to be known, has no voice, knowledge, conversation whatsoever about who is cut and who is not. It is done solely based off raw scores, kind of where the break point is in scores, and there's some other things that go into it as well. And I hate that we have, that we may have to have one, but I just want to let y'all know. Does anybody have any questions about this? All right. Okay. So individual practice rounds. As done in previous years, we are offering individual practice interviews and rounds with all the candidates leading up to convention. I don't know if y'all heard me before we started. I now have quote unquote big girl job and big girl responsibilities. So I'm not as available as I have been in the past. I can meet with each of you once. And I am going to remove myself from actually doing practice rounds and doing feedback, but I can meet with each of you one time and I will answer any questions you have about the process. I can give you, pull into my magic box of tricks and pieces of advice, but unfortunately, like I can't go through speeches and round robins and all that stuff like I have in the past. I wish I could, but I just don't have the time anymore. I don't know, Victoria, are you offering practices?
So whenever I get all the applications turned in by tonight, I will be sending y'all out an email, whether this weekend or maybe early next week, a Google form or form site link for you to sign up for practice rounds. On the practice round, you can sign up for certain days that you're available, times within that day, and also the round you would like to practice with state staff. People you can practice your rounds with are going to be either me or Elizabeth. This is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, join. Elizabeth, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. And she's going to be your state officer coordinator for y'all who get elected. So she'll be working with you through your service. Super exciting, And she'll also be there to help you through your officer practice rounds if you sign up during the time that she's going to be available. So I also will say the practice rounds that you sign up for, they're going to be for an hour at a time. And whatever round you sign up for, try to sign up for one round for each hour. Like, don't try to sign up for 3 rounds within an hour. That's not going to work. You're going to go over time. You're not going to do everything. So I just do one round at a time for the practice. And you can schedule like 10 practice rounds, schedule 1, schedule 15, sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will say, like, practice rounds, it's kind of like this extra resource that state staff provides for state officers. Of course, it's going to be virtual, which is a little different than how the round will actually be. But Elizabeth and Victoria have both gone through the process and both been elected to state office. They've seen behind the scenes of how, I train nominating committee members. They've seen, what we look for, what we tell committee members to look for. They're such a good resource to use. I cannot advise doing practice rounds more. In the past, like last year, and I think we have some current state officers on here, and maybe they can share their experience of how the practice rounds looked. The candidates who utilized practice rounds got elected. And you can see that from the practice rounds and kind of the advice that they were given, they were able to apply that to their actual, interview process. I think for me, I need to think about how I can set up meetings with all of you. If you want to talk to me individually about some individual questions you have about, personal pieces of advice for each of the rounds, I'm happy to meet with you. I guess you can reach out to me personally because my schedule is a little not as flexible, I guess. So we'll just reach out to me personally and we can meet. I'm happy to meet with all of you. And you can come with just like a whole list of questions. We can run through them. You can bring your advisor. Like I said, we have a transparent process. Anything to make you more comfortable, I'm happy to do. But just reach out to me personally. I'm happy to meet with each of you. But the practice rounds, they're a gold mine. Not only do you get prompts that have been used and, similar to the ones you're going to be using at state, but you also get, experienced feedback as well. Any questions about practice rounds? All righty. Okay, y'all. Nominating committee schedule. Saturday, June 3rd. All candidates should arrive in official dress to the convention center no later than 9:30 a.m. Rounds 1 through 3 will be conducted throughout the day. Lunch and dinner will be provided. In years past, they did like these lunch and dinner banquet types where committee members and candidates all ate together. We got rid of it last year, and I'm so thankful we did. It gets rid of any of that awkward, like, oh, they're scoring me, but we're at lunch and I can't really eat because I have to perform and make them like me. We're done with it. The committee needs a break. Y'all need a break. The meals will be done separate. We're going to keep the interaction between the committee members and the candidates to the committee room. And I think everybody was thankful for that last year because they actually got to eat in peace. Anyway, the cut and advancement, if it happens, will be that night. We're not going to keep you up to like 11. We'll let you know. Sunday, June 4th, interview rounds will begin at 8 a.m. if there's a cut or not, and be held throughout the day. Lunch and dinner will also be provided. Monday, June 5th, all candidates, Monday, whether there's a cut or not, whether you think you did great or not, I'm sure Victoria agrees with this. People are going to be looking to you as leaders at this convention. You should be engaging in the sessions. We won't know the team until that night, but there's sessions throughout the day. There's activities throughout the day. You need to be out there. You need to be participating in pre-sessions and activities, really letting them see your face. And for those of you who get elected, it'll be cool for those members who saw you throughout convention to be like, wow, that's like my next state officer. Nominating committee's report will be announced at the delegate business session at 7:30 p.m. What's the next slide, Vic? Okay. go back real quick.
Okay.
Sorry. I have a couple things I want to cover about that. And y'all are going to get a lot of emails from me moving closer to convention. I don't know if there's a slide about like your candidacy starting now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I won't cover that right now. Engagement between committee members and state officer candidates should be at a 0. We have not selected our nominating committee yet. But when we do, I know FFA, we're so well networked and we all know each other. I know a lot of you probably will know some of the committee members. We will have them nearly on lockdown. They're not to speak to you about the process, about what they're thinking, about who they like. If we find that you as a candidate are speaking in a way that you shouldn't with a committee member, about other candidates, about the rounds, about the scoring, about what position you want, the committee member will be dismissed and you're probably going to get disqualified from being a candidate. We do not accept that. Last year, Tristan put the fear of God Almighty in the committee members. And I remember one of our committee members was in an elevator with a candidate and the candidate told them good morning and they were so scared they were going to get in trouble. They didn't tell him good morning and came to me crying. They're like, I didn't even tell him good morning. I was so sad. It was so embarrassing. Yeah, they're not going to talk to you. So like we said, it's fair because why should one person get to build rapport and, a relationship with one committee member when the other candidates don't get to? And I think that should make, sense to everyone. If you have a question about that, let me know. I know some of you are on area officer teams and I don't know who the committee is going to be. And I know some of you have competed with other people. I'm not saying cut off communication with them, but I think we all know, like, keep the communication away from the upcoming selection. This is so important. This slide right here. This has gotten people not elected and people elected, I promise you. And I'm saying that at a national level, this has happened. Your candidacy starts right when we announce, actually right now. If people know you're running, you're already a candidate. It's an exciting experience, but it comes with a lot of attention. It starts before you walk into the interview room. I would say your social media, I'd be looking at that right now. I'd be going through all of your social medias and say, okay, does this look like someone who can be elected to a state officer? If the answer is no, either go private or just delete it. Just get rid of it. Because if you're elected to a state officer, Victoria and Elizabeth are going to be going through your social media anyway. It's a human process. And say a committee member says, oh, I'm so excited to be a committee member. Let me look up this candidate. And you go and you've got profanity and inappropriate things on social media. It almost is inevitable that they're going to remember that. That's going to be their first impression and not the impression that you leave on them in the committee room. It's only doing you a disservice. I would say literally today, go through, clean your records, do some housekeeping. Also, the members, they want to know. I remember, as a national, I would see like the national officer candidates. I'm going to every single national officer. I would go through the line, like who is running for national officer, who's going to be next national officer candidate. People do that for state as well. Not a slide. However, it is so helpful. And the candidates did it last year and I really appreciated it. They made a group me, the app, the group me where we can all chat together with all of the candidates in it. And they kind of like, it's helpful for like deadlines, keeping each other accountable. I remember one time I sent an email and it didn't get to one candidate, but they said in the group, like, hey, Sarah sent an email, and that candidate was able to say, hey, I didn't get that email. I advise you all to make a group me. When we get to convention, if you've already made a group me, I'm going to get added to it at convention just to monitor it. And also it's an easy way to communicate with y'all to make sure no communication about the rounds are happening. And then once convention is over, I'll leave it. But I don't know if you want to get with Victoria about that. I think like Grace last year just made the whole group me on her own and got everybody together and it was really helpful. So if you want to make that now, definitely do that. If not, I'm making one for convention. So just let me know. think that's it that I can think of.
Awesome. So again, as you turn in your applications, for those who have been turned in already, knows that will be turned in by tonight. Make sure you upload a headshot. I'm gonna go put those on the website whenever all those applications are turned in. After they're turned in, I'm gonna go look at all the headshots just to make sure they meet all of the requirements, like your official address, it's just human picture, you don't have a busy background or anything like that. If I do see a problem with your headshot, I'm gonna go ahead and contact you through email to try to get another one in. And if I do contact you, then I would like that headshot, the new one, by April 9th. If I don't contact you, then that means your headshot's good. You're good. So we'll go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break, and then our state officers will be here to answer any questions you may have, and you'll be able to talk to them about their experience. All right, so let's get back on here for 11:40.
Hey, Vic. You're muted. Victoria.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, can you check your phone real quick?
Can the what?
Your phone
Yeah.
text message.
All right, as everyone's getting back, can y'all turn y'all Zoom call on and we'll get the state officers ready for the Q&A. Stop. All right, we're about to start the state officer Q&A. If y'all want to hop back on. Okay, can y'all see me? I think my Zoom just went out. I'm so sorry about that. Can everyone see and hear me okay? Thumbs up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and start our state officer Q&A portion. This is the last thing we'll do for candidate school. This is your time to ask state officers any questions you might have. They can provide any opinions, perspectives, or advices they have. And we'll kind of go on to this until about 12 o'clock. So y'all are free to unmute, ask any questions. If not, I can start us off with a good question. All right. How do you guys think state office is, different from like doing it your high school year versus your college freshman year?
Okay, so I know for me, I've had the opportunity to serve during my high school and during my college year. And there definitely was a difference from high school to college. In high school, I felt like it was a lot easier to serve as a state officer because I felt like teachers are more lenient. But when you get to college, your professors are kind of like, some of them, depending on what you're majoring in, don't really understand what FFA is and what you do as a state officer. And so they're not as lenient, and it's a lot harder. It was a lot harder for me to be able to take off and actually go to visits and stuff because they don't understand. They're either going to fail you or it just kind of depends. But in high school, it definitely was a lot easier kind of taking off and kind of being able to attend all these events. Not saying that I haven't been able to do as much this year. It's just been a lot harder kind of working with my professors and kind of gauging that while kind of making sure they understand that I want to be attentive and I want to be in class. So that's just kind of one way for me. It was a little bit harder kind of gauging that with your professors.
I have a question for anyone who has ran in high school. So I'm going on my senior year, and I just wanted to know if any of y'all felt like it took away from like your high school experience. Not that like it's not something you would want to do, but like if there was times where like it took away from your high school experience.
Yeah, I would love to answer this one. So I'm also in high school. I'm a high school senior this year. And it definitely, state office is a huge responsibility. You have a lot of events, pretty much every week of the summer is taken up. And, you do end up having to miss a good bit of school for different events. And so you do miss a little bit, but you can still stay involved in your chapter, or not in your chapter, sorry, in your high school. I'm on my high school dance line, and I did have to miss a few games. Actually, I'm lying. I had to miss quite a few games, but I was, up front whenever the school year started with all of my clubs, with my dance line coach. I told her, hey, I'm doing state office. I'm going to be gone a lot. And so I was very upfront with her. And so whenever things did come up when I had to miss some stuff, she was very okay with it. But pretty much, I'd say overall, I felt like I haven't missed out on a lot. I did miss out on my senior night for dance line, but we were at national convention that week. And so I'd say it's definitely still worth it. You might miss out on a little bit, but I'd say it's still a very rewarding and worth it experience.
Thank you.
I have a question. So, as a state officer, what is some like factors of it that you maybe struggle with, like as being a state officer?
I know for me, it was facilitating. Like whenever I went through whenever I went through the facilitation round of candidacy, it was a struggle for me. That was the one that I struggled with the most. However, I do know that it was a very eye-opening experience to know what I need to work on, how I can do better if I was elected, what I needed to work on.
I have an answer. So one thing that I've struggled with is kind of making a distinct difference in scheduling my personal life and my state office. So like my family, we're really involved in like a lot of things around our house. We have a couple of businesses that we run. And so at the beginning of state officer year, I told my dad, I was like, hey, I need you to like not schedule me for anything unless it's like a family event, because I'm going to be gone a lot. I'm going to have to do a lot of this stuff, and I want to be able to do as much as I can within this, because this is temporary, and family should be, as long as you're here, you have your family. So just make sure to kind of convey to your parents like, hey, I really want to do this. I'm gonna try and do the best I can at this. So if you could like, I don't know how you would talk to your parents, but that's how I talked to my parents about it. I was like, I just sat them down. I was like, hey, here's all the dates that I have scheduled, but there are going to be things that come up that I may need to be let off for. So just kind of like that. I hope that answers your question.
So I have a question. How do y'all deal with problems among the state officer team? Because I know on like the chapter level, you see those people all the time and you can talk to them constantly, but on the state team, not nearly as much. So I just wanted to know how y'all deal with problems.
Well, the big way that we manage, any sort of conflict that may come up with our state officer team is by simply communicating. Like, obviously, communication is a really powerful tool. And as we discussed today through state officer candidate school, y'all have learned that communication is going to be a big part of what you're graded on. And that's why we learn about those team player dynamics and those communication dynamics, because without being able to communicate and hear the other side, you're not going to be able to solve conflict, right? And I think one of the most powerful tools that we can utilize as state officers is being able to try and think of their perspective from the other person's shoes, right? So we're actually trying to listen to them to understand. And by doing so, it allows us to be able to see where all of us come from. Because one of the beauties of the state officer team is that we have 10 of the strongest personalities across the state, right? And so often those will come with some very different perspectives. And so that can be a challenge at times, is we have to learn to be able to communicate with each other and understand different perspectives, even though we come from many different backgrounds. Some of us grew up on farms, some of us didn't. And so we all have different perspectives. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is that everybody has the best intentions for Louisiana FFA. And as long as you can keep that in mind and understand that with your other teammates, it's a really good way to keep our team moving forward.
I have another question. I asked state officers, what is the best piece of advice you could give to us for running for state office?
I got to jump on this one. All right.
Branch out as much as you. Sorry, Colton.
It's all good, bro. That internet trying to catch up.
We good? I'm so confused. Okay, so the main thing I can probably tell. Mine's bad right now. The main thing I can probably tell you is branch out. Get to know everybody within your candidate circle, because the more people that you make connections with, the more areas you have around the state that you know, and the more friends you make overall. So I can tell you, I didn't run for area office or anything like that. I was more kept to my chapter. And so whenever I got to the state level and ran for state office, I branched out so much. Like me and Thomas still keep in touch. Me and Zachary still keep in touch. There are so many people that you'll meet through state office and hire. Branch out.
Okay, I got to jump on this one too. Okay, I'd probably say like two big things for sure. So number one, with state office, like one of the most rewarding parts of it is you're not only learning a lot about the agricultural industry and FFA, but you're also learning a lot about yourself. So one of the biggest things I would say is take a lot of time to reflect about your values and have a good understanding of where you stand. And so the better understanding that you have of yourself, the better you can convey yourself towards the committee whenever you're running through this process. And secondly, this is going to sound corny, but regardless if you get it or not, this is going to be a rewarding process. I remember coming out of the rounds after the nominating committee thing, and just knowing that even if I didn't get it, I still learned so much throughout the process. You make new friends, you get the chance to learn a lot about yourself, and being put in those situations where you have to test your knowledge about who you are and about what you know about this industry and this organization, it's a very, very rewarding process. So just keep that in mind for everybody that goes through.
Okay, I have a question. So, during the nominating committee process, what's some advice on how to cope with the high intense situations that the interview process brings?
Okay, I have a good answer for this one. So, whenever you're going through those rounds, you're going to be put in a holding room with all of the other candidates, right? So make sure that before you go into that holding room or your round or wherever, that you are prepared, and then once you get in that holding room, like, I don't know, you can prepare maybe halfway until it's your turn. And then the other half, relax. Go and play those card games that they're playing. Go play with everybody. Go talk to somebody. Don't rack your brain trying to come up with the perfect formulated answer or perfect speech. Okay. Make sure to take time for yourself and to not get so amped up that you can't come back down and relax. Because whenever you go in those rounds, you want to be your best self, right? You don't want to be the stressed out and like really tense Kirsten, right? You want to be relaxed. You want to show them who you are and your authentic self. So make sure to prepare, before, and then have a little bit of relaxation. All right.
Now I'm gonna jump on this one too. You can go ahead. Hey y'all, my internet's bad. Y'all can go ahead.
All right, you come on, Caden. What you got?
All right. So my biggest thing by far, it's okay to let your emotions out, because let me tell you something. These rounds will be the most fulfilling part of the entire experience, just going through it. And after, you're going to be in complete shock, because you're going to think that you either did bad or you did good. If you think that you did bad, you probably did good. So don't stress over that. But the thing is, your emotions will get the better of you. It's okay to let it out and to breathe. take a minute to yourself, talk to your fellow candidates. You can vent out to each other because you're all going through the same thing. So just, it's okay to let your emotions out. So.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead. If y'all can hear me, I'm not exactly sure, but we, especially for me, I had a notebook. I just went to the dollar store before I went and got just a tiny little notebook and wrote down my thoughts after that day, whether I thought I did great, what I said, what the questions were, just to kind of have that out and what all was going through my mind, just to have it down and out of there.
And I guess one more thing, one of the things that Miss Rashel always told me is basically just go in there and be yourself. Like, you have to be confident in who you are. Don't think that you have to put on this mask. I know that's been said several times throughout the candidate school today, but it really is true. If you go in there and you stay true to yourself and be confident in who you are, it's sort of a assuring thing to know that as long as you go in there and do yourself, regardless of the result, you're doing the best that you can. Like, it's literally impossible to do better than your best. If you go in there and do your best, that's all they're asking for. And no matter what happens, you can be happy knowing that regardless of the result, you went in there and gave it your all. So that was sort of a big thing, is every time before we went into the rounds, me and Ms. Rashel just told each other, we're like, I'm going to go in there and do me. Whatever happens, happens. So that's the mindset I kept going through it.
I've got more question. Oh. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go after you.
So like we all know life can happen. Bad things can happen in life. So as a state officer, how do you balance continuing to serve, but also dealing with those things within your personal life?
I will say, going back to what Caden said, branch out with your candidates. You're not really for sure who you're going to be with, but whoever you are, if you are on that team, y'all will always be good friends. It will be like you picked up where you left off every time you see them. And so therefore, being able to have that trust with them and to just let things out, shoot them a text and just be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. If you don't mind, just thinking about me, praying for me, or doing whatever, however you choose. But I just think that's a lot easier, especially for me. I don't talk to anybody, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I
For
would
me-
also. Oh, I'm sorry. You go, Abby.
Okay. For me, though, we have on this team, we have a wonderful opportunity of having 10 other people who are so passionate about agriculture and FFA. And when I tell you utilize that, you may have points in your life where things are just going very wrong, where school's kind of kicking your butt. I know I felt that a lot this year transitioning into college. College was so different. But when it came to kind of balancing, like, you're here for FFA and you're here to get your job done, but you have teammates who are here to help you along the way. You're going to have things due at certain points, and you may kind of be overwhelmed. And just always being able to lean onto your teammates. They're so understanding, and they're there to help you. And I think that's one of the biggest things is you feel like you can't be vulnerable and you don't want to show a weakness. But in state officer and in your time in state office, there is going to be points where you just can't handle it, and you need to kind of confide in your teammates. And that's what they're there for. They're there to kind of help you get through it. Whether you want to tell them everything about the situation or you just want to say, hey, I need help. Like, I'm having to work on this workshop, but I really just can't do it right now. I know I'm not pulling my weight. And that's the biggest thing is communication when it comes to a team, making sure that you're getting, like, your teammates know that you're not just slacking because like you want to slack. You're slacking because something's wrong and you kind of just need a little help and you need to kind of get through that. And so that's kind of the biggest thing for me when it comes to balancing that personal life is knowing that your teammates are here for you and that your state officer here, you're here to get everything out of it that you need. But if you need to take a moment to step back, you always kind of have that. You have a way to step back and kind of regain yourself and then go back into it.
I have a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun have you had?
Can like 20 be on the scale? Can I put 20?
I mean, you can go
You
higher than
accept
10.
that?
That was just like a limiting factor.
Yeah,
I
would
place
definitely.
1,000.
Yeah, it's okay. So, it's a lot. It is a huge responsibility and it does get very stressful at times. All of our state convention stuff is due this Saturday. And so I can pretty much can say on behalf of all my teammates that it's a very stressful time with it. But even regardless of that, all of the time that you get, so sorry. So sorry, that's our intercom at school. But even with all of that stress, it is the most exciting thing. You not only get to meet and interact and have so much fun with members from across Louisiana, you also get to meet different state officers from all over and get to form friendships from all across the nation. So even though it can be very stressful, it's oh so rewarding. And it's honestly one of my favorite things that I've ever done and one of the most fun things that I've ever done. I hope that answers your question.
Going along with what Annie said, absolutely. My state officer year has been on a scale of 1 to 10, it's been a complete infinity. Just because like I love the people that I serve with. I love the organization that I'm working for, and just the cause of it, and just all of that combined is just amazing, and it makes it such a fun and rewarding experience.
I have a question.
I think this will also be our last question.
Okay. As a team, what's one thing that you've come to expect of each other?
I would say honesty. On our team, or on any team really, any state officer team, there's 10 people. You have a lot of different personalities in the bunch. And so some are going to be really honest with you. Some won't be honest, like totally honest. They're going to hold back a little bit. I'd say honesty, because if you're actually wanting to ask some advice from one of your teammates, or ask them, their opinion on something, you're going to want an honest answer. You're not going to want them to just say what you want them to hear, because it may be about a workshop about like, oh, should we change this? Because you're presenting this to the public and other students, right? So you want it to be the best that it can be.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your questions. And thank you to the state officer team for being on and answering those questions for us today. Before we dismiss candidate school, I do want to show y'all one more final thing regarding resources you can find. If you go to the Louisiana FFA website, you can go to association right here, student leadership, state officers, and right here, you can find some state officer candidate training resources. So if you click on this link, we have information regarding the LSU Ag Center, Farm Bureau, AFNR standards, National FFA information regarding SAEs, advocacy model, alumni, really good resources. I think the current state officer team used this page to study for state office, and they found it helped really well. Right here, this is the presentation for candidate school and the Zoom recording from last year, but I'm going to go ahead and update it today with the presentation slides and Zoom recording that happened today. So you can go ahead and look back on that anytime that you need. Also, as you submit your application, you can access the Louisiana FFA State Officer Manual right here if you want to look at those due dates and required events throughout the year. That's also right here. And what I'll also do after all the applications are submitted tonight, a new tab will show up right here regarding meet the state officer candidates, and all of your headshots, names, and chapter information will be right there too. So you can share that however you want. Let's see, I believe that's all the information I have left. If you would like to contact us, here is our information. You can contact Mr. Lejeune through email right there. Me and Elizabeth, you can contact us through phone number or email if you have any information regarding the state officer programs and required events throughout the year. And if you have any information you would like to know about the nominating committee process, you can contact Sarah right there. So
Before you leave today, just because I'm not located at the state office anymore, and it's a little more difficult for me to get in communication with you directly if I need to get in contact with you. I know a few of you have been texting me. I'm trying to text you back now. Go ahead and send me a text message, Sarah, like the 318-229 number. Send me a text message with your name and school if you haven't yet. I would appreciate that just for me to be able to communicate. Sorry, thank you.
So yeah, I'll leave this slide up so you can take a picture with it, write down any phone numbers or email addresses you need to. But as far as that goes, don't forget to turn in your applications tonight if you haven't already. I'll be checking the application statuses today, and if I don't get any by tonight, like submitted, I can't take any state officer applications tomorrow. So make sure you turn it in tonight because I can't accept any late ones. And if you have any more questions, I'll still be on the Zoom call. But other than that, thank you guys so much for attending Candidate School today. And I'm really excited you're starting your state officer process journey with us. I can't wait to see y'all in the near future. Thank y'all.